the great swordsman of Marvel. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 551 Mask. The scene grew increasingly exciting. Two incredibly strong individuals were locked in combat, making it nothing short of a spectacular performance. The audience was mesmerized, almost forgetting it was a match. However, Yamcha, watching from below, hadn't forgotten the purpose: to win over the tournament organizers, gain Grandma's trust, and ultimately help repair the Dragon Ball radar. Therefore, Yamcha silently prayed for Yi-Shen to win the match quickly. The situation remained tense, and Yi-Shen was extremely anxious. This dragging on couldn't continue, the match had to reach a conclusion. Meanwhile, Yi-Shen wasn't the only one anxious. The fifth warrior was also very impatient. To quickly determine the winner, he decided to use his ultimate move, the Kamehameha. When the masked warrior unleashed the Kamehameha, the audience was stunned. Such a powerful move wasn't something anyone could use, only someone with truly formidable strength could master it. Many in the audience had never witnessed the power of the Kamehameha, they only knew how powerful it was from hearsay. When they actually saw it, they were completely stunned by what they saw. The Kamehameha was indeed an exceptionally powerful move. When the fifth warrior unleashed it, the powerful energy directly struck Yi-Shen, hitting him squarely. Yi-Shen hadn't expected his opponent to also use the Kamehameha, and seemingly with such skill. Caught off guard, Yi-Shen didn't react in time and was struck. However, Yi-Shen wasn't deterred. Just before being hit, he used his strength to quickly dodge into the air. Therefore, the fifth warrior's Kamehameha only narrowly missed Yi-Shen, almost delivering a fatal blow. The audience below the stage was astonished, holding their breath for Yi-Shen. From their perspective, Yi-Shen had already been hit by the powerful Kamehameha, so while they were worried about his safety, he had already dodged aside, unnoticed by them. At that moment, the fifth warrior was also gloating over his ultimate move, believing it had struck Yi-Shen. When Yamcha watched from below, he was extremely worried about Yi-Shen and shouted in surprise, "Yi-Shen, be careful." All of this happened in just a few seconds. The situation changed dramatically. Yi-Shen reappeared from sight. It turned out Yi-Shen was unharmed and had reappeared safely. How could Yi-Shen disappoint Yamcha? Yamcha felt a little apologetic for his overthinking. The fifth warrior's Kamehameha had completely ignited Yi-Shen's competitive spirit. Since both of them could use Kamehameha, Yi-Shen naturally wanted to compare and see whose Kamehameha was superior. Yi-Shen used his after-image fist to ascend into the air, then unleashed a Kamehameha wave at the fifth warrior. The fifth warrior was struck by Yi-Shen's Kamehameha. Just as Yi-Shen was congratulating himself on being hit, things suddenly took a turn. The powerful energy flow of the Kamehameha blew off the fifth warrior's mask, revealing his true face. Yi-Shen was shocked. The person before him was very familiar. It was his old friend, Master Roshi. Yi-Shen was completely stunned, his mind blank. He was astonished. Why was Master Roshi here? And why was he the fifth warrior? Master Roshi, having been attacked by Yi-Shen, suffered a minor injury. Being elderly, Master Roshi couldn't withstand such a beating. He was angry. He hadn't expected Yi-Shen to be serious. If he hadn't reacted quickly enough, he might have been finished. When Yi-Shen realized his opponent was Master Roshi, he knew he was in trouble and wanted to escape quickly, because he knew Master Roshi well and believed that Master Roshi would immediately punish him. Sure enough, everything went as Yi-Shen expected. After being beaten by Yi-Shen, Master Roshi was furious and chased after him, wanting to teach him a lesson. Because Master Roshi was incredibly fast, he noticed Yi-Shen grabbing his arm. Master Roshi was fast enough to catch up with Yi-Shen quickly, then grabbed his arm. Master Roshi was very strong, lifting Yi-Shen above his head and tossing him high into the air. Then Master Roshi quickly jumped into the air, grabbed Yi-Shen's arm, and pulled hard, dislocating Yi-Shen's arm. Especially when Yamcha saw this, she was shocked, because she didn't expect Master Roshi to treat Yi-Shen like this. She examined Yi-Shen's injured arm and felt very distressed. Meanwhile, sitting in the audience, was completely bewildered by what was happening. He hadn't even grasped the cause or the sequence of events. He was simply utterly astonished. After Yi Shen's arm was injured by Master Roshi, he became completely enraged. He had never imagined Master Roshi would treat him this way, so in a fit of anger, he unleashed his full power with a Kamehameha, launching it at Master Roshi. Because Yi Shen and Master Roshi were so close, Master Roshi couldn't dodge and was struck squarely by Yi Shen's Kamehameha. Yi Shen's Kamehameha, unleashed at 100% power, was incredibly powerful. Even an experienced person like Master Roshi couldn't withstand its energy. Yi Shen's powerful attack severely injured Master Roshi, who surrendered. Even after Master Roshi surrendered, Yi Shen couldn't quell his anger. He was still extremely angry with Master Roshi because Master Roshi had concealed his identity to come and compete against him. Moreover, he hadn't shown him much favoritism during the match, which Yi Shen felt was completely inappropriate given their relationship. Yi Shen was particularly curious as to why Master Roshi would come here concealing his identity and even wear a mask to compete against him. Yi Shen picked up the mask Master Roshi had previously used, which had fallen to the ground. He pulled it up, dusted it off, and walked over to Master Roshi, throwing the mask in front of him. Yi Shen angrily asked. Chapter 552 Reconciliation. Tell me why you're wearing a mask to participate in this competition. Master Roshi felt he had made a mistake, and embarrassed, he kept his head down. He answered Yi Shen's question softly, saying, I came here to participate in the competition simply to test how much your strength has improved. Yi Shen was taken aback. He highly doubted the truthfulness of Master Roshi's words and questioned, who knows if what you're saying is true or false? I don't believe you at all, Master Roshi quickly explained, everything I said is true. I really did come here to test whether your strength has improved. I concealed my identity to have a match with you. Yi Shen still didn't believe it, but his tone softened slightly. Alright, let's assume what you say is true. But let me ask you, even if my strength improves, what impact will it have on you? Why do you want to know all this? Master Roshi thought silently for a moment after hearing Yi Shen's question before answering. I've always hoped you could continuously improve your strength. Therefore, I've been secretly observing your progress, hoping you can overcome all difficulties and continuously improve your strength. Yi Shen didn't know whether Master Roshi's words were true or false. Even if he wanted to believe it, it all didn't make sense. Why would Master Roshi be paying such close attention to him? Even though they had known each other for a long time and were friends, their friendship shouldn't have led Master Roshi to take such actions to closely monitor Yi Shen's progress. It all didn't make sense, so Yi Shen became even more suspicious of Master Roshi's true identity. If Master Roshi is a bad guy, then all their previous interactions become even more inexplicable, because Master Roshi has been helping Yi Shen from the very beginning. Whenever Yi Shen encountered difficulties, Master Roshi always helped him solve them. But if Master Roshi is a good guy, then why would he conceal his identity and come here to compete with him? It must be said that Yi Shen is indeed very clever. His line of reasoning was correct. In the following document, Master Roshi revealed his true identity, which surprised everyone present. Yi Shen questioned Master Roshi, I now have serious doubts about your identity. I feel that your identity is not just that of a lord of a small island. I feel that you must have other identities, which you just haven't told me. Master Roshi was delighted to hear Yi Shen's question, as he had been hiding his true identity as Yi Shen's grandfather. He had witnessed Yi Shen's continuous growth and was deeply gratified by this revelation. Now that things had progressed this far, there was no point in continuing to conceal the truth. Therefore, Master Roshi decided to reveal the secret today and announce his true identity to Yi Shen. Master Roshi said very seriously, since you want to know my true identity so much, then I will tell you. Child, I am actually your grandfather. But when Master Roshi finished speaking, Yi Shen could hardly believe his ears. Master Roshi actually said he was his grandfather. Although Yi Shen had always known he had a grandfather, hadn't his grandfather passed away a long time ago? Why would someone say he was his grandfather to his face? Yi Shen's mind was in complete confusion. Yi Shen didn't believe Master Roshi's words at all. He thought Master Roshi was trying to get rid of him. So he angrily questioned him. If you dare to say anything more, believe me, I won't care about our past relationship. Master Roshi frowned. He hadn't expected Yi Shen's reaction to be so strong. Master Roshi had no choice but to speak seriously once more. I'm not making this up, child. Really, I really am your grandfather." After saying this, Master Roshi took out an item from his person, an item that Yi-Shen remembered. Yi-Shen was extremely surprised when he saw it, because he also had an identical item on him, which he also took out. Comparing the two items, they were exactly the same. Yi-Shen looked at Master Roshi and then at the item, incredulous. He thought, how could this be? How could Master Roshi be his grandfather? Although Yi-Shen was very skeptical, he now had to believe that the Master Roshi before him was his biological grandfather. Because there were only two of these items. Yi-Shen's was one that his grandfather had personally crafted for him when he was young, and his grandfather had also kept one on him. These two items were unique in the world, so after seeing them, Yi-Shen had no choice but to believe it was true. Yi-Shen felt particularly awkward about this relationship, because he didn't want to admit that the Master Roshi before him was his grandfather, but he could only grit his teeth and bear it. Master Roshi, seeing Yi-Shen's expression change repeatedly, believed that Yi-Shen had come to believe he was his grandfather. Master Roshi then said, "My dear grandson, I originally intended to keep this a secret forever, not to tell you my true identity, but you're so clever, you discovered my flaw beforehand." Yi-Shen clenched his fists angrily. He was still very uncomfortable with Master Roshi being his grandfather. He said somewhat fiercely, "For so many years, you left us, we thought you were dead. We never expected you to be living so freely in the Dao. So why did you reveal your identity? You'd better never tell me your true identity." Yi-Shen's words were all childish and angry. He had missed his grandfather terribly for many years. He remembered how much his grandfather had doted on him when he was little. After his grandfather disappeared, he felt particularly uneasy. Deep down, however, Yi-Shen was actually very happy. After all, his grandfather was still alive, so he didn't care about other things. He had let go of the past. In the end, he reconciled with Master Roshi. Master Roshi cautiously apologized to Yi-Shen. "Alright, don't be angry anymore. See, Grandpa's back after all." Yi-Shen's expression softened considerably, and he nodded slightly in response to Master Roshi's words. This small gesture filled Master Roshi with immense joy. As long as Yi-Shen stopped blaming him, he felt much more at ease. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553 Whereabouts. Yi-Shen still found everything that had happened unbelievable. According to his expectations, these things should never have occurred. So not only was Yi-Shen himself surprised, but Yamcha and Kirin were also incredibly astonished. Their two longtime friends were actually grandfather and grandson. Now that the competition was completely over, Yi-Shen and his team had achieved a perfect record of 5 victories. Since the competition was over, Master Roshi had no reason to stay any longer. He was merely an assistant hired by Granny Gumiho. After the competition ended, he needed to return to his own territory as soon as possible. Before leaving, Master Roshi gave Yi-Shen many instructions, expressing high expectations for him, especially instructing him to find all 7 Dragon Balls. After Master Roshi left, Yi-Shen went to Granny Gumiho to ask her to fulfill her promise. Granny Gumiho actually greatly admired Yi-Shen, and when Yi-Shen made this request, she agreed without hesitation. Granny Fortune Teller was a very straightforward person, a woman of her word, so she didn't refuse at all. She didn't refuse Yi-Shen's request, and thus led them to a mysterious place where she intended to reveal the location of the 7th Dragon Ball. This place was Granny Fortune Teller's most secretive hiding place. It held many of her treasures, and here she could use her mystical skills to predict the location of the 7th Dragon Ball. When Yi-Shen arrived with Yamcha, he politely said to Granny Fortune Teller, "I really hope Granny Fortune Teller can help me this time. You must find the location of the 7th Dragon Ball." "I thank you in advance, Granny Fortune Teller." This was Yi-Shen's earnest expectation, for this was the goal he had been searching for all this time, so he was particularly looking forward to the final result. Granny Zan nodded, agreeing, and then immediately sat cross-legged in meditation, quietly sitting on the ground. Yi-Shen didn't know what Granny Zan was doing. The real reason was that every time Granny Zan wanted to use her divination skills, she first needed to calm her mind and enter a completely peaceful state before she could use the skill. Therefore, when Yi-Shen and the others saw this, they were a little surprised, because they didn't understand how Granny Zan's divination skills were performed. The scene was still a little noisy, and Yi-Shin judged that the people's voices would disturb Granny Zan, so he said to everyone present, "Everyone, please be quiet. Granny Zan is currently using her divination skills. I hope everyone can remain quiet and not disturb her." Yi-Shin's tone was exceptionally serious, a seriousness tinged with earnestness. Everyone was well aware of Yi-Shin's strength, having witnessed his performance in several matches. Knowing his power, they dared not act rashly before him, and obediently kept their mouths shut. The entire scene suddenly fell silent, without a sound, except for the occasional footsteps. This quiet state perfectly supported Granny divination in effectively utilizing her divination skills. The tranquil environment provided a better setting for Granny divination to use her temporary abilities, so she focused her mind. She closed her eyes and sat cross-legged on the ground. She could now vaguely sense the location of the 7th Dragon Ball in her mind. Although Granny divination had a general idea of the 7th Dragon Ball's location, simply knowing it wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was to let Yi-Shin and the others know its location, so she needed to use a visualization technique to make the location of the 7th Dragon Ball appear so that Yi-Shin and the others could see it clearly. The fortune teller used another of her skills, making the location information she sensed in her mind appear completely in midair. Yi-Shin and the others were astonished by the scene. Everyone present stared wide-eyed at this incredible sight. It was truly amazing that the fortune teller possessed such a skill. While marveling at her abilities, Yi-Shin carefully observed the location of the 7 Dragon Balls. Yi-Shin had an exceptionally good memory. The scene before him seemed to be copied and pasted directly into his brain. He meticulously analyzed the map appearing in the sky and realized that the 7th Dragon Ball was hidden in a strange little village. With the fortune teller's help, Yi-Shin finally learned the location of the 7th Dragon Ball. Their next task was to find it as soon as possible. Yi-Shin didn't want to waste any more time. Since the location of the 7th Dragon Ball had been found, there was no reason for him to waste any more time here. So, after sincerely thanking the fortune teller, he left with Yamcha and Kirin, setting off on their journey to find the 7th Dragon Ball. Along the way, Yi-Shin, relying on his powerful memory, firmly remembered the location information he had obtained earlier and gradually approached a mysterious village where the 7th Dragon Ball was hidden. To save time, Yi-Shin used his special skill, the Flying Nimbus, the entire way. This was already the umpteenth time that Colin and Yamcha had ridden Yi-Shin's Flying Nimbus for free. They especially loved it. This magical mode of transportation always made them feel incredibly cool. With the three of them rushing along, they finally arrived at a mysterious village where the 7th Dragon Ball was hidden. Looking down at the village, Yi-Shin felt it was particularly inconspicuous and guessed that no one would find it. However, this time Yi-Shin's guess was wrong, because almost at the same time they arrived, Suzushima and his group also arrived. Yi-Shin slowly descended with Yamcha and the others, landing on the ground. As Yi-Shin approached the village, they encountered uninvited guests at the village entrance. This group was none other than Suzushima and his friends. When Yi-Shin saw this group of people, he was extremely surprised. He hadn't expected that Zadhuffin and his gang would find this place. Because the location was so well hidden, it was impossible for ordinary people to know about it. If they did know, then there was only one purpose, to obtain the 7th Dragon Ball. Chapter 554 Dragon God. Moreover, this wasn't something they hadn't done before. They had previously used their cunning to steal several Dragon Balls from Yi-Shin, causing him to lose a lot of time. Therefore, Yi-Shin harbored a deep grudge against them. When the two groups met, they immediately understood each other's purpose. Knowing full well, they no longer pretended to hide their intentions and spoke directly. "I believe your purpose in coming here is the same as mine. So let's not waste any more time and have a proper match. Whoever wins gets the Dragon Ball." These were the words of Mixed Rice, spoken with confidence and self-assurance, believing they could defeat Yi-Shin. However, he was still somewhat overconfident. Yi-Shin completely disregarded them, knowing their strength, and knew that a quick victory was best to save time. Yi-Shin stated directly, "All right then. The loser must accept the defeat gracefully and leave as soon as possible, without hindering the other side." Since Yi-Shin had been so direct, Zadhuffin couldn't delay any longer and nodded firmly. Yi-Shin glanced at the numbers on both sides and found they were evenly matched, with 3 people on his side and 5 on the other. So Yi-Shin wasn't worried about being outnumbered. In fact, with Yi-Shin's strength, He could easily take on all of them alone, but Colin and Yamcha were very enthusiastic and wanted to help him. So Yi-Shen assigned the two weakest opponents to them to handle. After some discussion, Yi-Shen and Zhahufan chose a time and place for the match and arrived there as agreed. They were about to have their duel. Both sides looked aggressive, especially Zhahufan. From their expressions and demeanor, it was clear they were determined to win. They were very confident and self-assured. However, true strength isn't determined by mere aura, only the actual match will reveal their true abilities. The match officially began, with Yi-Shen facing off against Zhahufan. During their duel, Yi-Shen could clearly sense that Zhahufan hadn't improved at all, while Yi-Shen, after experiencing certain events, had continuously increased his strength, making his fight against Zhahufan particularly easy. However, during this process, Zhahufan used his ultimate move to burn Yi-Shen's clothes. Especially when he noticed something amiss with Yi-Shen's movements, he pressed his advantage, discovering that Yi-Shen's hand was dislocated. This news was undoubtedly a huge boon for Zhahufan, as he could exploit this weakness to launch a more devastating attack. Because Yi-Shen couldn't use one arm freely, but didn't want Zhahufan to restrict him, he began to counterattack. Yi-Shen's counterattack was remarkably effective. Within just a few rounds, Zazuba was defeated by Yi-Shen, and his friends were also successively defeated by Yamcha and Kirin. Zazuba couldn't believe it, as Yi-Shen's improvement astonished him. Zazuba was particularly unwilling to believe it, because he was always a person who refused to admit defeat. He had always won against others, but against Yi-Shen, he always suffered crushing defeats. Zazuba had specifically chosen several strong friends to accompany him on this journey to find the Dragon Balls, but he never expected to encounter Yi-Shen and his group. He could only blame his extremely bad luck. Zazuba's group lost a match, and according to the agreement, they could only leave as soon as possible and not hinder Yi-Shen and his group's actions any further. However, Zhahufan was extremely unwilling to give up. He didn't want to leave in such a dejected manner. He still wanted to find the 7 Dragon Balls. But he was also terrified of Yi-Shen's power. So, after weighing his options, to save his own life, he finally chose to leave temporarily. After Zhahufan and his group left a mysterious little village, Yi-Shen, along with Yamcha and Colin, went to the village to search for the 7th Dragon Ball. The three of them found the 7th Dragon Ball in no time. The moment Yi-Shen found the 7th Dragon Ball, he was extremely happy, because this was something he had persisted in for so long. Once he found the 7 Dragon Balls, he could summon Shenron and have his wish fulfilled. Yi-Shen took out the other 6 Dragon Balls he carried and arranged the 7 Dragon Balls together, neatly. Through his consciousness, Yi-Shen expressed his request to the 7 Dragon Balls with a devout heart. Just after Yi-Shen expressed his request, the 7 Dragon Balls resonated with each other, each emitting light and releasing a mysterious power that converged in the air. These 7 mysterious powers slowly coalesced, forming a transparent shadow. As time passed, the transparent shadow gradually took shape, eventually forming the form of a dragon in the air. Although this dragon was only a faint shadow, its powerful form still exerted immense pressure, causing everyone who witnessed this scene to show slight surprise. Clearly, everyone was filled with inexplicable awe. Finally, the form of Shenron appeared before Yi-Shen and his companions. Yi-Shen was extremely excited. Looking at Shenron, he wanted to immediately express his wish. When Shenron appeared, he seemed to have been asleep for a long time, only being summoned after such a long period. He looked somewhat languid, rubbing his eyes, as if he had just woken up. The dragon spoke in a low, angry voice. Anyone could see that this long-dormant dragon god was truly enraged. The oppressive aura emanating from him made anyone who approached feel immense pressure, as if they couldn't breathe. "Who summoned me? I was sleeping soundly, and you woke me up. Tell me, what wishes do you want me to grant?" Chapter 555 Elimination. Throughout his life, Shenlong had been summoned countless times, and he long ago knew that these people summoned him for nothing more than power and wealth. However, what happened next made him look at humanity with new respect, because Yi-Shen's purpose was not these things. Yi-Shen knew he had disturbed Shenlong's peaceful slumber, so he apologized to Shenlong, saying, "I'm sorry to disturb you. We simply have a wish to express to you, because only you can fulfill this wish." Hearing this was particularly interesting, because Yi-Shen was the first person in a long time to speak to him so politely. Therefore, Shenlong didn't treat Yi-Shen the same way he had with others. He felt this person might leave a different impression. Shenlong was also very curious about what kind of difficult thing Yi Shen could have gone through so much hardship to collect the 7 Dragon Balls to summon Shenlong. Shenlong said in his deep voice, "Quickly state your wish, I'm running out of patience," so Yi Shen respectfully stated his wish. "I have a friend whose father has passed away, but he desperately wants his father to come back to life. He felt he hadn't fulfilled his filial duties while his father was alive, and he wants to make up for that. So he hopes his father will come back to life so he can have a chance to properly express his feelings to him again." Shenlong was deeply moved by Yi Shen's story. It was indeed a very sad tale. Shenlong hadn't misjudged him. Yi Shen was different from others. He wasn't collecting the 7 Dragon Balls to satisfy his own selfish desires. After hearing the story, Shenlong became interested, his spirits lifting. He excitedly asked Yi Shen, "Everyone only has one chance to make a wish before me. If you miss this chance, you have to find all 7 Dragon Balls again. So, have you thought it through? Are you sure this is your wish?" This question was a test for Yi Shen. Shenlong wanted to see if Yi Shen could stick to his original idea. Unexpectedly, Yi Shen nodded firmly before him and said, "That's right, I only have this one wish. From beginning to end, my only wish has been to bring my friend's father back to life." Yi Shen's answer pleased Shenlong greatly, and he readily agreed to Yi Shen's request. "I'll help Yi Shen fulfill his wish," Shenlong said happily. "Good young man, I see you're a very good person, so I'm very willing to help you fulfill your wish." After Shenlong finished speaking, he began to use his special ability. After he used his special ability, at the same time, in another place, Bupa saw his father, who had come back to life. However, since he was with Yi Shen, he didn't know if his wish had been fulfilled, so he asked Shenlong, "Can you let me see if my wish has been fulfilled?" After Yi Shen asked this question, Shenlong used another skill to create a scene in the air, and Yi Shen and the others could then see the process of Bupa's father awakening through this image. Yi Shen was particularly happy to see this scene, because the joy of helping others was particularly satisfying, and he found a sense of accomplishment in it. He felt that what he had done was of great significance. Just as Yi Shen was still recovering, Shenron spoke to him. "Goodbye, young man, farewell forever." As soon as the words left his lips, Yi Shen saw Shenron disappear before his eyes. Then, just like after the last time Shenron was summoned, the 7 Dragon Balls slowly rose into the air and flew off in different directions. They would continue to scatter in different corners of the world, waiting for others to find them again. This journey had come to an end. Yi Shen had fulfilled his wish, helping Bupa bring his father back to life. Yi Shen finally breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally accomplished something of great significance. Just as Yi Shen and his companions finished this task and were preparing to leave the small village, a little girl hurriedly ran towards them. A clear, melodious voice rang out behind them. "Three brothers, could you do me a favor? My family is in trouble, and I hope you can help us solve this problem, because I just saw you, able to talk to a strange dragon. I guess you must be very powerful." Yi Shen hadn't expected that their encounter had been witnessed by ordinary villagers, but thankfully, it wasn't anything serious. They hadn't done anything immoral or shameful. Yi Shen was always a kind-hearted person, and hearing someone ask for his help, he didn't refuse. He turned to the little girl and asked, "Don't rush, tell us slowly what difficulties you've encountered recently. If you tell us, we'll definitely help you if we can." Yi Shen's words warmed the little girl's heart, and she confidently told her about her problems. "Brother, my name is Xiaoqiao. Our village has been constantly harassed by 2 bandits called Golden Horn and Silver Horn. They frequently appear in our village and rob us, making our lives miserable." It was astonishing that such a thing could happen in such a secluded mountain village. Yi Shen looked at the village buildings and sensed that the villagers weren't particularly wealthy. If they were also robbed by bandits, their lives would be even more unbearable. Yi Shen felt great sympathy for their plight and decided to do what he could to help them. "Do you know where those 2 bandits are? Take me to them, and I'll help you get rid of these 2 scourges." Hearing Yi Shen's confident answer, the little girl knew their village could be saved and excitedly led Yi Shen and the others to find the 2 bandits. Led by the little girl, the 3 of them arrived at a bandit's hiding place. It turned out the 2 bandits lived in a cave. Yi Shen immediately shouted from outside the cave, "Get out here right now, you 2 robbers!" Yi Shen's voice was very loud, and the powerful sound waves startled the Golden Horn and Silver Horn members inside, as they had never heard such a powerful voice before. Chapter 556 Treasure. But upon hearing this, they were furious. No one in the village dared speak to them like that, only someone with a death wish would dare speak to them in such a tone. And yet, they dared to act so arrogantly outside their cave. The two bandits, Golden Horn and Silver Horn, grumbled as they walked out of the cave. When they reached the cave entrance, Yi-Shen finally saw what the two bandits looked like. It turned out they were nothing more than two monsters who had hidden themselves in this secluded mountain village, committing evil deeds and harming the local people. Today, Yi-Shen would rid the village of this scourge and ensure that these two monsters would never again disturb this peaceful village. Golden Horn and Silver Horn arrived at the cave entrance and saw Yi-Shen and a little girl outside. They recognized the little girl as one of the villagers and assumed she had brought some help, but they didn't care. Because in this village, no one could defeat them, even if the entire village attacked together, they wouldn't be a match for the two of them. That's why they dared to be so confident and continue harassing this small village. Golden Horn glanced at Yi-Shen disdainfully, sizing him up before speaking in a very disrespectful tone. Where did this timid monkey come from? Daring to challenge us at our doorstep, are you tired of living? The two bandits, Golden Horn and Silver Horn, spoke with extreme rudeness. Seeing Yi-Shen's thin and weak appearance, they assumed he was easy to bully and dared to call him a timid monkey. Yi-Shen didn't retort. In his view, it was pointless. He only needed to help the villagers solve this problem, drive Golden Horn and Silver Horn out of the village, teach them a lesson, and prevent them from harassing the villagers again. Yi-Shen glanced at Golden Horn and Silver Horn before him. Their appearances were very distinctive, making it easy to tell who was Golden Horn and who was Silver Horn. Yi-Shen coldly addressed them. You two must be the wicked Golden Horn and Silver Horn, right? In that case, you two must get out of this village today and never come back. Golden Horn and Silver Horn listened to Yi-Shen's words in surprise, but they were not convinced. They asked in unison, who do you think you are? What makes you think you can say such things? I think you don't want to live anymore. In that case, I'll send you to see the King of Hell. Don't be polite, it's what we should do. Golden Horn and Silver Horn were extremely arrogant, and their arrogance completely enraged Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen didn't waste any more words, but chose to attack directly, to let these two arrogant bandits know his power, and see if they dared to speak to him like that again. So Yi-Shen attacked. Yi-Shen only used one move to knock Golden Horn and Silver Horn to the ground. Before the two bandits could react, they had already been beaten down by Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen acted as if nothing had happened, crossing his arms and looking down at them condescendingly. The two bandits, Golden Horn and Silver Horn, were particularly indignant. They couldn't believe they had been so easily defeated, and they decided to retaliate. So they took out their prized possession, the purple gold gourd. With the purple gold gourd's blessing, Golden Horn and Silver Horn became even more arrogant, boasting shamelessly. We know you're here to avenge the villagers, but you're no match for us. You think you can defeat us with your pathetic skills? What a joke. Today we'll show you the power of the purple gold gourd. You like to stand up for others, don't you? Well, you'll be the first to experience it. The entire village will pay for your death. As Golden Horn and Silver Horn finished speaking, Golden Horn raised the gourd and used an incantation, intending to suck Yi-Shen and the entire village into it. However, to protect the villagers, Yi-Shen stepped forward, blocking their way, and was the first to be sucked into the gourd. After Yi-Shen was sucked in, the two bandits, Golden Horn and Silver Horn, became extremely arrogant, laughing loudly. They mocked, this guy claimed to be so powerful, but in our eyes, he's only got this much skill. He didn't even put up a fight before being sucked into the gourd. Yi-Shen, inside the gourd, overheard the two robbers' conversation but paid them no heed. After being sucked in, he carefully observed the gourd's internal structure. The gourd was extremely dark, and Yi-Shen could only rely on his hands to feel and explore. He could clearly feel the gourd was incredibly hot, like a giant steamer. He felt that if he stayed inside any longer, he might be melted by the gourd. Because of the darkness, Yi-Shen spent a lot of time finding the exit, and during this time, he felt himself getting hotter and hotter. This heat was unbearable, his throat felt incredibly stuffy and the temperature was extremely high, making it almost impossible for him to breathe. Yi-Shen didn't give up, he persisted in trying to find the exit. He touched the inner wall of the gourd, moving towards the increasingly narrow section, hoping to find the entrance along the inner wall. Finally, after some time, Yi-Shen found the entrance to the gourd. However, the entrance was now sealed, and not a ray of light could be seen. Yi Shen tried hard to push the guard's stopper, but he found that his strength had also decreased after shrinking, so he couldn't open it for a moment. However, Yi Shen didn't give up. He adjusted his state and used all his strength to fight against the stopper. Fortunately, Yi Shen's persistence paid off, and he finally managed to push open the gourd's stopper. The moment he did, a powerful airflow surged outwards from the gourd, and Yi Shen was propelled out with it. The two bandits, Golden Horn and Silver Horn, were extremely surprised, as their gourd was a particularly powerful treasure. They hadn't expected anyone to be able to open it from the inside. Now that Yi Shen was out again, his aura was completely different. Golden Horn and Silver Horn could feel the powerful aura emanating from Yi Shen and were filled with fear and apprehension. Therefore, they were now extremely wary of Yi Shen because his eyes had changed completely. Golden Horn and Silver Horn, fearing Yi Shen's return, attempted to use their powerful treasure to try and suck him back into the gourd. However, unbeknownst to them, Yi Shen had already found a way to counteract the gourd's power, meaning they would not succeed this time. Chapter 557, A Fool's Dream. Actually, Yi Shen had unexpectedly found the incantation to use the gourd inside. So, just as Golden Horn and Silver Horn were about to learn the incantation, Yi Shen beat them to it. He mastered the incantation before they could, and the gourd pointed its mouth at them, sucking them inside. After the two bandits were sucked into the gourd, Yi Shen picked up the gourd stopper from the ground and closed the gourd again. Now, their fate inside was entirely up to fate. Yi Shen had sealed the two bandits, preventing them from causing any more trouble. He then handed the gourd to Xiao Qiao, asking her to lead the villagers to find a way to dispose of it. Following Yi Shen's advice, he suggested that the villagers bury the gourd somewhere, keeping it forever underground so that no one could find it. This way, Golden Horn and Silver Horn would be trapped inside forever, with no one able to rescue them. The villagers thought Yi Shen's suggestion was excellent. It was the best way to punish the two bandits and ensure they would never be free. After helping the villagers solve their problem, Yi Shen, along with Yamcha and Kulin, left the village and arrived in an unfamiliar place. They had arrived in a nearby town. Yi Shen learned from others that there was a particularly powerful person in this town named Chen Daquan. Why was he called Chen Daquan? Actually, his real name wasn't Chen Daquan. It was because his martial arts were exceptionally skilled that others called him that. Whenever Yi Shen heard of a particularly powerful person, he wanted to test his skills against them, and this time was no exception. Yi Shen wanted to find Chen Daquan and have a proper spar with him. Yi Shen found someone to guide him, and so they arrived at Chen Daquan's house. The guide knocked on Chen Daquan's door and called out loudly, "Brother Daquan, someone's looking for you. I've brought them to the door, just come out and see them." Hearing the voice, the person inside came out. It was Chen Daquan. Chen Daquan opened the door for Yi Shen and Chen Daquan, then asked with a puzzled look, "Who are you? What brings you here?" Yi Shen replied very politely, "Well, I'm new to this place. I've heard you're the strongest in this town, so I wanted to learn some martial arts from you." Upon learning Yi Shen's purpose, Chen Daquan was overjoyed, as he had always hoped for someone to practice martial arts with, so he was especially happy that someone had come to his door. Chen Daquan invited Yi Shen to his home. Chen Daquan prepared fine tea for Yi Shen, and the two chatted happily, seemingly having known each other for a long time. They talked so much that they almost forgot the time, and the day quickly passed, and it was time for Yi Shen to leave. They agreed to have a match the next day. They agreed to meet in Chen Daquan's courtyard the following morning. Yi Shen slept very well that night, wanting to be full of energy and spirit for the match the next day. The next morning arrived very early, and Yi Shen got up early, humming a little tune as he walked towards Chen Daquan's courtyard. When Yi Shen arrived at Chen Daquan's house, he found Chen Daquan already waiting for him in the courtyard. After a brief exchange, Yi Shen and Chen Daquan got down to business. Their upcoming match would be special. However, an unexpected incident occurred. Chen Daquan's old injury flared up during the match, preventing him from continuing. Yi Shen was disappointed, as he had waited all night for the match, only to have this happen. But he felt Chen Daquan was a very good person, so he abandoned the match and went to find a doctor to help Chen Daquan. Yi Shen was able to prioritize, so he immediately gave up the match and quickly headed to the town, hoping to buy medicine to treat Chen Daquan's injury. Wanting to save time, Yi Shen ran at full speed, even using his somersault cloud technique, and quickly arrived at the town. He found a pharmacy, bought the medicine Chen Daquan had asked him to buy, quickly paid, and then hurried home. On his way back to Chen Dequan's house, Yi-Shen encountered two strange men. Seeing Yi-Shen's hurried state, they tried to trick him. The two men blocked Yi-Shen's path. One tried to snatch something from his hand, while the other grabbed his shoulder. Because Yi-Shen was already in a hurry, a conflict ensued. Yi-Shen initially thought it best to avoid trouble, but these two men were being incredibly aggressive. He didn't want to get involved, but they forcibly grabbed him, seemingly trying to steal something from him. One of them, particularly menacing, said to Yi-Shen, "You look quite wealthy. Hand over everything you have. You'd better behave yourself, or we'll be very rough with you." It turned out these two men wanted Yi-Shen's money, but they had chosen the wrong person. Yi-Shen didn't take it seriously. He thought these two thugs were just after a little money. But he wouldn't give them even a single dollar, so he said, "If you want what you want from me, then you'll have to rely on your own abilities. If you lose, you two will have to accept my punishment." The two brothers sneered, then laughed loudly, arrogantly saying, "Do you know who we are? We are the most famous Xianlong brothers in town. You think you can teach us a lesson by yourself? You're dreaming. Believe me, we'll beat you so badly your own mother won't recognize you." The two men's tone was extremely unpleasant. Only then did Yi-Shen realize that these two were called Xianlong Shangding, the two most notorious thugs in town, who often ambushed and robbed people on the street. This was the first time Yi-Shen had ever heard of someone actually wanting to beat him so badly that he wouldn't recognize his own mother. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. He felt that these two men were truly arrogant and conceited, and Yi-Shen really wanted to teach them a lesson. Chapter 558 Diligent Study and Hard Work. Yi-Shen gently placed the medicine by the roadside, then took it out of his pocket with both hands. He began to attack the Xianlong brothers, knocking them both to the ground with a single move. Yi-Shen found their comical state on the ground particularly laughable. These two brothers, in the prime of their youth, were always idly loafing around the town as hooligans. Yi-Shen hated people like that the most. After experiencing Yi-Shen's power, the Xianlong brothers seemed to have completely changed their tune. They quickly scrambled to their feet, begging Yi-Shen for mercy, saying, "Hero, spare our lives. Hero, spare our lives. We two brothers were ignorant and disturbed you. We apologize to you here, it was our fault, we'll leave immediately." Yi-Shen said coldly, "Weren't you two very arrogant just now? Why are you like this now? Show some courage. You think you can just bully me and leave so easily?" When the Xianlong brothers heard Yi-Shen's words, they were terrified. They thought Yi-Shen wouldn't let them off, so they were so scared they immediately knelt down and apologized to him, completely lacking any dignity. One of them looked pitiful, almost crying as he pleaded with Yi-Shen, "Hero, please spare us. We really know we were wrong, we'll never do this again. Please, let us leave." Yi-Shen raised an eyebrow and continued, "Really or not? You two are just trying to fool me, trying to deceive me so that after I let you go, you'll continue your evil deeds, right?" What Yi-Shen said was almost exactly what the Xianlong brothers were thinking. They truly intended to continue their evil deeds after leaving. But after hearing Yi-Shen's words, they didn't even dare to have that thought anymore. They pleaded with extreme sincerity, "No, we really won't do that again. Just let us go, and we'll all be honest and reform ourselves. Please, give us a chance." Actually, Yi-Shen didn't care whether they were telling the truth or not. As long as they could restrain themselves a little, that would be good. Before meeting Yi-Shen, the Xianlong brothers had never encountered someone as powerful as him, which was why they had been able to run rampant in the town for so many years. Today, the Xianlong brothers had finally fallen into Yi-Shen's hands. It was their bad luck. Yi-Shen wanted to hurry back to Chen Dequan's house to treat his injuries, so as night deepened, he didn't want to waste any more time. He said something to the Xianlong brothers. "I can only let you go if you truly do as you just said. If you repent and become good people, I won't bother you." The Xianlong brothers nodded hurriedly and said happily, Okay, we will definitely do as you ask. We will definitely repent and start anew." Yi-Shen bent down to pick up the medicine bag placed by the roadside, then turned and left. Xiao said one last thing to the two brothers, "Remember what you two said. I will still be in this town for the next few days. If I hear anything bad about what you've done, I will definitely not be polite to you." When the Xianlong brothers heard this, they broke out in a cold sweat. Because they didn't know how long Yi-Shen meant by the next few days, they knew they had to be very obedient and not do anything during that time. Yi-Shen left smoothly and returned to Chen Dequan's house. He gave the medicine to Chen Dequan's wife. Yi-Shen then left Chen Dequan's house. He felt a slight regret about his trip to this small town. He hadn't had a proper chance to spar with Chen Dequan. Yi-Shen didn't stay in the town for more than a few days before leaving. On his journey, he heard news that the Imperial Tournament was about to begin. Upon hearing this, Yi-Shen's first reaction was to participate. He knew he could meet many old friends there, and he was sure they would all be participating. After a long journey, Yi-Shen arrived at the Imperial Tournament registration office and signed up. A few days later, he was able to go to the competition venue. Although Yi-Shen didn't yet know who the contestants would be, the name itself suggested a high-level competition. Therefore, he was certain that many people from all over would participate. A few days later, Yi-Shen arrived at the venue for the Imperial Tournament. Sure enough, he met several old friends there. Yi-Shen greeted them and chatted very happily. The Imperial Tournament was held as scheduled, and Yi-Shen, after passing through several rounds of selection, finally entered the finals. This competition wasn't difficult for Yi-Shen, as the Imperial Tournament wasn't as challenging as the world's #1 martial arts tournament, so Yi-Shen won with ease, easily advancing to the finals. Afterwards, Yi-Shen participated in the Imperial Tournament's grand finals, where he emerged victorious, becoming #1. This wasn't difficult for Yi-Shen. However, something unexpected happened in the grand finals. Yi-Shen's opponents in the final match were the S.H.I.E.L.D brothers. Yi-Shen was quite surprised, because a small incident had occurred before the match. After leaving the small town, the S.H.I.E.L.D brothers had truly reformed themselves. They had diligently practiced, and upon hearing about this competition, they decided to sign up. The S.H.I.E.L.D brothers participated to prove that their hard work had paid off, and after participating, their confidence soared. In this competition, they found their own value and felt incredibly proud of their existence. Yi-Shen was also very pleased to see this situation. He felt that what he had done was meaningful, as it could change two people and motivate them to strive for improvement. Yi-Shen felt that what he had done was particularly valuable. After winning this imperial competition, Yi-Shen received a prize money from the organizers. With this prize money, Yi-Shen could go anywhere he wanted and would never have to worry about money again. Chapter 559 Life and Death Uncertain. Having found the 7 Dragon Balls and helped his father, who was fearless, revive, Yi-Shen was temporarily without direction. Unsure of where to go, he decided to clear his mind and enjoy life. He decided to travel freely, going wherever the road took him, as he had no fixed destination. Riding his flying Nimbus, he traveled slowly, enjoying the scenery. It had been a long time since Yi-Shen had slowed down like this. He found the days incredibly comfortable and pleasant, fully embracing his current life. Yi-Shen wandered aimlessly, eventually arriving in a new kingdom. There, he met the king, who, upon hearing of Yi-Shen's heroic deeds, held him in high esteem. The king desperately needed someone like Yi-Shen and wanted to bring him down to the throne. Therefore, he treated Yi-Shen exceptionally well, taking him to live in the royal palace. Yi-Shen's quarters were the most luxurious room in the entire country, even more luxurious than the king's. Yi-Shen felt this was excessive and initially wanted to refuse, but he couldn't resist the king's overwhelming enthusiasm. In the end, Yi-Shen had no choice but to accept. However, he felt somewhat apprehensive every day. The king treated Yi-Shen with exceptional respect, honoring him as a distinguished guest and providing him with the highest level of treatment. One day, the king invited Yi-Shen to dinner. The banquet was held in the palace gardens, where the beautiful scenery and delicious food complemented each other perfectly. At the banquet, Yi-Shen sat alongside the king, drawing envy from the others. Yi-Shen felt he was being overly flattered and felt very uncomfortable. During the toasting ceremony, the king asked Yi-Shen a question. With such extraordinary skills, where do you plan to go? The king's question was a probe to gauge Yi-Shen's intentions. He hoped Yi-Shen would stay in his country and contribute to its development. In truth, Yi-Shen himself didn't know where he wanted to go. He was aimless and wandering aimlessly. Now, with the king asking, he could only answer, honestly, I don't know what I should do. After completing the last mission, I've become idle. I'll just take it one step at a time. Although Yi-Shen's answer didn't give the king a definite answer, the king wasn't discouraged. He felt there was still hope. As long as Yi-Shen hadn't explicitly rejected him, he could still try to persuade him to stay. However, Yi-Shen didn't think that far ahead. He never wanted to stay in one place. He was used to wandering, used to freedom and unrestrained. The king, who held the dominant position at the banquet, noticed Yi-Shen's slightly embarrassed expression. To make Yi-Shen feel more comfortable, he brought up another topic. The king remembered something particularly interesting and said, "I wonder how many of you here know about the existence of the demon realm?" A man below echoed the king's question. "What is the demon realm that your majesty speaks of?" Then another man stood up and said loudly, "I've heard of it. Legend has it that there's a place called the demon realm, located in the northwest border region between our country and neighboring countries. It's a desert, and legend says it's inhabited by demons and monsters. The climate there is extremely harsh, unsuitable for any plant growth. The harsh environment has caused most of the creatures there to mutate, sometimes making their appearance quite strange, and they're called demons." This was a bit new to Yi-Shen, as he had never heard of it before. He was initially curious, but then he felt particularly perplexed and wanted to go there to investigate. After the man finished speaking, Yi-Shen had some questions and asked, "Since that place is so terrifying, why doesn't anyone go there to govern it properly?" Yi-Shen's question surprised everyone present, because just hearing about the demon realm was enough to instill fear, let alone anyone daring to go there. The king then answered Yi-Shen, "Hero, you may not know this, but in that place called the demon realm, mutated creatures have emerged, each possessing unique abilities. Their superpowers are so powerful that no one dares approach." Yi-Shen asked, "Has no one been there all this time? Perhaps the truth is not like this." Yi-Shen's question reminded the king of something that happened more than 10 years ago. "To tell you the truth," the king said, "more than 10 years ago, I organized a team of the most talented young people in the country, whom I carefully selected. They formed a team and went to that place, but in the end, only one person returned. According to his description, the climate there was extremely harsh, the creatures were terrifying, and their abilities were unforgettable." The more terrifying the king described, the more curious Yi-Shen became about that place. Because Yi-Shen always loved adventure and challenges, she especially wanted to go there and find out for herself. After the king brought up this topic, the person sitting below looked very sad and distressed. Yi-Shen noticed that his expression was different from the others. So, Yi-Shen asked the person, "Why are you always frowning?" The man, realizing Yi-Shen was speaking to him, stood up and politely replied, "Hero, you don't know this, but just a few days ago, my daughter, Misa, was playing in the countryside. She accidentally encountered a monster that had escaped from the demon realm, and that monster was captivated by her beauty. It kidnapped her, and her fate is still unknown." The old man spoke with great emotion. He was middle-aged and watched helplessly as his daughter was taken by a monster. This sense of helplessness deeply moved Yi-Shen. At that moment, Yi-Shen made a very bold decision. She comforted the old man, saying, "Since you say your daughter was kidnapped by a monster because of her appearance, perhaps she isn't in immediate danger for the next few days. I can help you rescue her." When the old man heard this, he was overjoyed because Yi-Shen's offer to help rescue his daughter gave him hope. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560 Monster. However, the queen was unsettled upon hearing this. Yi-Shen was the one she had chosen to help her govern the country. How could she allow him to take such a risk? The queen was the first to oppose Yi-Shen's decision, saying emphatically, "Hero, this matter isn't as simple as you think. You have no idea how terrifying that place has become. Legend has it that almost everyone who has been there has never returned. So even with the greatest skills, going there will leave you battered and bruised." Despite the queen's terrifying words, Yi-Shen remained steadfast in his convictions. After the queen finished speaking, the others echoed her sentiments, also urging Yi-Shen not to go there lightly. "Hero, we think the queen is right. That place is truly not an ordinary place. So for your own good, it's best to avoid it for now." Although everyone meant well for Yi-Shen, one particular remark struck him as particularly offensive. The man said, "Hero, why risk your life to go to such a dangerous place for a girl?" Yi-Shen found this extremely inappropriate, because regardless of whether it was a girl or not, it was still a life. How could these people be so indifferent to life? Yi-Shen had always been a rebellious person. The more people tried to persuade him to do this, the more he chose the opposite path. Yi-Shen's mind was made up, and he firmly told everyone present, No matter how you try to persuade me, I've decided to go to the demon realm. I will definitely go and rescue Misa." When Yi-Shen finished speaking, several people shook their heads and sighed, saying, "That's really impulsive, really foolish," but Yi-Shen felt no conflict at all, because only through adventure and challenges could he encounter more things and have room for growth. Therefore, Yi-Shen was determined to go to the demon realm, and rescuing Misa was something he absolutely had to accomplish. Even though Misa was dead, Yi-Shen was determined to bring back an answer and tell this father about his daughter's fate. Although the king initially opposed it, seeing Yi-Shen's warm-heartedness, he felt particularly gratified. This was truly worthy of the title of hero. Seeing Yi-Shen's resolute expression, the king knew it was impossible to persuade him to stay, so to respect Yi-Shen's decision, he sent someone to take him to the northwestern border region bordering the neighboring country. Yi-Shen planned to set off the next day. He couldn't wait to explore that place. The next day, Yi-Shen and his guide set off. The king saw them off for a while before parting ways. The guide was actually quite frightened. He was terrified because that place, known as the Demon Realm, was truly terrifying. Although he had never been there, he had heard countless legends about it since childhood. Therefore, he couldn't help but be afraid. Although Yi-Shen was hailed as an exceptionally powerful hero, he had never witnessed Yi-Shen's true strength. He wasn't sure if his safety was guaranteed. In fact, the guide's concerns weren't unfounded. Along their journey to the demon realm, they encountered all sorts of small demons and monsters. Yi-Shen, through observation, could tell that these creatures were indeed transformed beings, making them particularly ugly and unsightly. However, Yi-Shen handled them with remarkable ease. Finally, the guide successfully led Yi-Shen to the entrance to the demon realm. Upon arriving, the guide demanded Yi-Shen's release. Yi-Shen readily agreed, and thus, Yi-Shen ventured alone into the demon realm. From this moment on, Yi-Shen began his journey through the demon realm. Yi-Shen entered the demon realm alone, determined to rescue Misa, even at great risk. The moment Yi-Shen stepped into the demon realm, an oppressive feeling washed over him. He frowned slightly at the harsh climate and environment. Following his gaze, he saw skeletons scattered everywhere, along with decaying corpses. The scene was utterly disgusting, especially late at night, with a stench emanating from the rotting bodies. Yi-Shen wanted nothing more than to leave immediately. The rotting corpses were repulsive. To try and cheer himself up, he decided to flee. However, he soon realized that this scene was ubiquitous. In the demon realm, there was only one rule for survival, the survival of the fittest. You had to be strong enough to ensure your survival, only the weak would be devoured by the strong. Since Yi-Shen didn't know which monster had captured Misa, he had no idea how to find her. Although the demon realm was merely a gray area on the border of this country, Yi-Shen only realized how vast it was after entering, especially in such a desolate region. Yi-Shen felt that finding Misa would be quite difficult. He had no clues whatsoever, particularly regarding Misa. He was practically clueless. Just as he was becoming anxious, he encountered a group of monsters lurking nearby. Not wanting them to discover his presence so quickly, Yi-Shen found a large rock and hid behind it. Carefully hiding behind the rock, he observed the situation. He saw that the group of monsters was out hunting. Yi-Shen counted the number of monsters, finding 3 to 5. Since he didn't know their strength, he dared not act rashly and could only wait behind the rock for an opportunity. Ideally, the monsters would remain undetected and leave, allowing Yi-Shen to emerge from behind the rock and continue his plan. Yi-Shen could tell from the monsters' hunting behavior that while their eyesight was poor, their sense of smell was extremely keen. Hiding behind the rock, Yi-Shen carefully observed them and discovered that these monsters could only see clearly within a radius of 10 meters. However, their sense of smell was so acute that they could detect anything in front of them with just a slight sniff. Yi-Shen began to worry. He feared these monsters with their incredibly sensitive sense of smell would discover his presence. Yi-Shen used his special ability to shield himself from any human scent emanating from him. Chapter 561 Demon Realm. Due to the extremely harsh climate, there are very few living creatures. Furthermore, there are many monsters but few animals, leading to an imbalance in the food supply. When these monsters came out to forage, they had already searched for a long time but found nothing suitable to eat. The ground was littered with rotting corpses, not a single living creature was to be found. Yi-Shen could clearly see that these monsters were extremely hungry, yet they still forced themselves to continue searching for food. Among these monsters, one could not withstand the intense hunger and collapsed. When the other monsters saw their companion fall, they did not help but swarm to devour his body. This scene was incredibly cruel. Even the usually bold Yi-Shen could not bear to look any longer. This was utterly inhuman behavior. Monsters are monsters precisely because of their natural wildness. Before long, the remaining monster's body was almost completely devoured by the others, leaving only blood and a few remaining skeletons. Yi-Shen covered her mouth, afraid that her surprise might cause her to make some strange noise that would attract the attention of the monsters. Watching what had just happened, Yi-Shen felt incredibly suffocated. She wanted to leave immediately, not wanting to see it again. Just as she turned to leave, she accidentally missed a rock and fell with a loud thud. The moment she fell, Yi-Shen knew things were going to get bad. She knew the monsters had definitely noticed her. Without thinking, Yi-Shen immediately stood up and ran frantically in the opposite direction. She needed to escape the monsters before they could fully react, or she would be in danger. After hearing the strange noise, the monsters saw a human running ahead, and their dejected atmosphere suddenly brightened. They excitedly chased after their prey, wanting Yi-Shen to become their meal. Just moments ago, these monsters were on the verge of death, but upon seeing the actual object, they suddenly seemed to be injected with adrenaline, instantly energized. They ran incredibly fast, their frenzied pace resembling that of wild beasts. Yi-Shen looked back at these monsters charging towards him like wild animals, feeling immense pressure. Although he was fast, he couldn't keep up with these ravenous monsters. In his panic, Yi-Shen had completely forgotten about his somersault cloud. Only when the monsters were about to catch up did he remember, so in a frantic rush, he summoned the somersault cloud, mounted it, and soared into the sky. Seeing Yi-Shen fly into the sky, the monsters froze, helpless. Now, with the help of the somersault cloud, Yi-Shen dared not descend to the ground. He wanted to stay in the air. He didn't want to go to that hellish world below. The monsters below, seeing Yi-Shen in the air, acted like mad wolves, howling and howling, sending chills down Yi-Shen's spine. They didn't give up, relentlessly pursuing him, seemingly waiting for his descent. Yi-Shen knew perfectly well that if he wanted to rescue Misa, he would have to land, as Misa was still there waiting for his rescue. Yi-Shen stopped flying, hovering his somersault cloud in midair, observing the situation below. He slowed his speed, thinking he could use his aerial advantage to survey the area, perhaps making it easier to find Misa. While in the air, he used his superior altitude to look down and saw only one building in the entire area. The rest was desert, with only a small building in the center. In a place where the strong prey on the weak, anyone surviving in that building must hold a very high position. Since discovering this place, Yi-Shen's gaze had never left it. He slowly descended, approaching the location, and then discovered that other demons were guarding the building. Yi-Shen seemed to understand who lived there. This place must be the residence of the highest ruler of the demon realm, for only he was qualified to reside there. Yi-Shen quietly landed on his somersault cloud and gently stopped on the roof of the building. Fortunately, no one noticed his descent, so Yi-Shen quietly lurked above the building, intending to investigate. Yi-Shen tapped a small hole in the roof and peered through it into the room. He didn't see anything strange, he only noticed that the room was unusually clean, unlike the outside, which was littered with rotting corpses and dismembered bodies. Inside, however, it was exceptionally clean. Yi-Shen saw a burly demon sitting in the center of the room. Although Yi-Shen couldn't see the demon's face, he could tell from the aura surrounding him that this demon was an exceptionally powerful being. Through Yi-Shen's observation, he could see that all the other demons on the side were particularly afraid of this burly monster. A few minutes later, just as Yi-Shen was about to leave, his eyes suddenly saw a human girl being pushed out of the house. Judging from the girl's appearance, Yi-Shen deduced that she was about the same age as the middle-aged man's lost daughter. Therefore, Yi-Shen could conclude that this girl must be Misa, the girl he had come to find. Yi-Shen became serious, observing the situation below. He saw that the girl had many wounds, seemingly having suffered greatly. However, Misa didn't cry, her eyes were particularly firm, and her face held a resolute air, seemingly unyielding to her current predicament. The demon who had pushed Misa out spoke obsequiously to the ruler of the demon realm. "Your Majesty, this is a human girl I captured a few days ago. Doesn't she look beautiful? I think she must taste delicious. To show my respect to you, I thought of offering her to your Majesty first." Chapter 562 Fighting a Rock with an Egg. The ruler, known as the Great King, stood up, walked to Misa, and lifted her chin with his hand. Yi-Shen couldn't see the ruler's expression, but he could hear his words. This woman is quite beautiful, more beautiful than any of the female demons here. I'd rather keep her as my wife than eat her. Yi-Shen was particularly surprised when he heard this. He hadn't expected the Demon King to be attracted to Misa's beauty. However, the thought of a human and a demon being such a strange combination disgusted him. It was a taboo that crossed species. Misa reacted the same way Yi-Shen did, looking at the Demon King with surprise. Then, Misa strongly resisted, her eyes unwavering as she said, "Don't even think about it. If you do that, I'll kill myself." It was clear that Misa was a girl of great integrity. She would rather be eaten or killed than be humiliated like this by a demon. Yi-Shen greatly admired Misa's courage, secretly adding points to her beauty in his heart. Yi-Shen hadn't expected that Misa wasn't a delicate, pampered young lady, but rather a very stubborn and spirited young girl. The ruler of the demon realm was called Ashura, the supreme ruler with unparalleled power. Ashura had never seen anyone dare to defy him. He suddenly found this little girl particularly interesting. She wasn't afraid of him at all. Misa hadn't looked at the extremely ugly monsters, she found them utterly repulsive. When Ashura reached to lift Misa's chin, she kept her eyes closed. Ashura said coldly, "If you're so eager to die, I can grant your wish, but before you die, we'll all have to eat your flesh. Do you choose to be cooked and eaten, or do you choose to be eaten raw?" Both methods of death are extremely painful. Although Misa had backbone, she was still a young girl who hadn't experienced much hardship. How could she remain calm after hearing these words? Misa was clearly terrified and dared not speak, her eyes wide with surprise and fear as she stared at Ashura. Ashura, seeing Misa's expression, felt particularly smug and sneered, "Now you know fear? You were so stubborn just now. Don't talk big if you don't have the ability." Misa felt insulted, her eyes glaring fiercely at Ashura. Ashura particularly hated being looked at like that. Misa had violated Ashura's taboo, instantly enraging him. Ashura strode up to Misa and grabbed her by the neck. Even before Ashura used much force, Misa was already feeling suffocated. Yi-Shen, watching this scene, became anxious. He feared Ashura might actually harm Misa, as Yi-Shen still needed to rescue her. Just as Ashura was about to strangle Misa, Yi-Shen jumped down from the rooftop and struck Ashura's arm. Ashura, in pain, released Misa, and Yi-Shen quickly pulled her aside, shielding her behind him. Misa was completely bewildered by this sudden turn of events. She didn't recognize the person in front of her, and couldn't understand why he had come to her rescue. Misa asked Yi-Shen in confusion, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Yi-Shen replied calmly, "I am Yi-Shen. Your father sent me to take you back." Hearing this, Misa was overjoyed. Finally, someone had come to save her. She had spent several days in despair. Initially, Misa was very happy, but when she saw only Yi-Shen come to rescue her, and no one else, she immediately felt deflated. She felt she had no hope of being rescued, and perhaps even those who came to rescue her wouldn't have a chance to return alive. Misa felt even more desperate. She didn't think she could return alive. In the past few days, she had witnessed just how powerful and unpredictable these monsters were. It was impossible for Yi-Shen to rescue him from so many monsters on his own. It's understandable that Misa lacked confidence in Yi-Shen. After all, she didn't know who he was, but his strength was undeniable. Misa patted Yi-Shen's shoulder and said, "You should go back. While there are still few monsters here, you can leave on your own. If there are more monsters later, and you have me as a burden, neither of us will be able to leave." Misa was very kind. She didn't want to involve innocent people, so she urged Yi-Shen to leave quickly. But Yi-Shen's reaction confused her even more. Yi-Shen said with great confidence, "Believe me, I can definitely get you out of here." Misa didn't know where this person's confidence came from, nor could she understand what her father was thinking, sending only one person to rescue her. This was illogical, and Misa couldn't understand it. Misa couldn't believe in Yi-Shen's strength, as she had never seen it before. Misa felt even more desperate. She had encountered an arrogant man to rescue her. It would have been better if he hadn't come at all. Since she had no chance of returning alive anyway, she might as well kill a few more monsters before she died. Just as Misa and Yi-Shen were interacting, Ashura winced in pain, clutching his arm, and glared angrily at Yi-Shen. He spoke with a wary and fierce expression, "You foolish humans are really bold. You dare to come to rescue someone all by yourself. How much do you look down on us? Today, I will make your blood flow on this barren land to nourish even more evil spirits. S.H.I.E.L.D's words were particularly sinister, causing Misa's hair to stand on end. She hid behind Yi Shen, timidly watching S.H.I.E.L.D. Yi Shen, however, was unconcerned. Although he didn't know S.H.I.E.L.D's true strength, he was confident in his escape speed. After all, not everyone possessed a powerful treasure like the somersault cloud. Even if he lost a match against S.H.I.E.L.D., Yi Shen could use the somersault cloud to take Misa away. The monsters here almost never knew how to fly, let alone had advanced flying vehicles, so once Yi Shen was in the air, he was invincible. Yi Shen wasn't afraid of S.H.I.E.L.D's threat. He calmly addressed S.H.I.E.L.D. You must be the most powerful monster here. Why don't you have a one-on-one fight with me? If I lose, you can do whatever you want with us. If I win, I'll take her away. Yi Shen wasn't doing this out of stupidity, but in Misa's eyes, it was like throwing an egg against a rock. But unexpectedly, Yi Shen continued in an extremely arrogant manner. Chapter 563 Fathead Fish. Go ahead and make your move, I'll give you 2 chances. Yi Shen's words completely enraged S.H.I.E.L.D., causing him to erupt. S.H.I.E.L.D. could no longer control his anger and attacked directly, falling right into Yi Shen's trap. It seems S.H.I.E.L.D. is an impulsive person who can't hold back. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s strength was indeed exceptionally powerful, evident from his very first move. He was not only extremely familiar with each technique, but its power was also formidable. But what good was that? Such strength was far from sufficient to defeat Yi Shen's flower. Every time S.H.I.E.L.D. attacked Yi Shen, he missed, as Yi Shen always managed to dodge in time. This scene stunned all the demons present. They had never seen such a powerful human before. They stared in disbelief at the result. They had never seen the ruler unable to defeat a human. S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't want to lose face, so he became increasingly anxious. But the more anxious he became, the less he could unleash his true power. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s composure had crumbled. Wanting a swift victory, Yi Shen increased his speed and power, launching a counterattack that gave S.H.I.E.L.D. no chance to breathe. Yi Shen easily evaded S.H.I.E.L.D.'s barrage of powerful attacks, then unleashed his own, striking S.H.I.E.L.D. squarely in the face. Injured, S.H.I.E.L.D. clutched his wound and collapsed on his knees in pain. This spectacular match astonished all the demons present. They hadn't expected the ruler to be so easily defeated by a mere human, and they dared not provoke him further. No demon dared to challenge Yi Shen and his companions. They all stared at Yi Shen as if he were a ferocious beast. But Yi Shen was not a beast, but a human. Yi Shen summoned his somersault cloud, then, holding Misa's hand, led her onto it. Amidst S.H.I.E.L.D.'s resentful gaze, he activated the somersault cloud, and they successfully left this place known as the Demon Realm. Even long after Yi Shen and his companions left the Demon Realm, Misa still couldn't comprehend how Yi Shen had single-handedly defeated the Demon Lord, S.H.I.E.L.D. It was utterly astonishing. After rescuing Misa, Yi Shen didn't intend to take her back to exchange for his father. He had another crucial matter to attend to, the martial arts tournament. After arriving at the tournament venue and completing the registration process, Yi Shen finally had time to take Misa back to her country. Misa was overjoyed to finally see her father. She rushed to him and embraced him tightly. Throughout the long period from being captured by the monster to being rescued by Yi Shen, Misa had never shed a tear out of fear. But upon seeing her father and family, she couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears, hugging her father tightly. Misa was incredibly happy. Her father comforted her like a child, patting her head and gently holding her in his arms, speaking softly. "Don't cry, sweetie. Our family is reunited now. We must be careful from now on and never let something like this happen again. Father will definitely work harder to protect my precious daughter and never let her suffer like this again." Misa grew up in a very happy family. Her parents loved her dearly. She was their only daughter, the apple of their eye, and she had always lived a carefree life. This accident was the most dangerous experience of Misa's life, so she was terrified. Although she had been incredibly brave at the time, when she saw her parents again, she still cried like a child in their arms. This scene was particularly heartwarming. Yi Shen was also moved by what he saw. Seeing Misa safely back with her parents meant that the matter was over, and Yi Shen had completed his mission. Just as Yi Shen was about to turn and leave, Misa's father called out to him, expressing his deepest gratitude. "Hero, thank you so much for successfully bringing my daughter back safely." "Thank you so much," Yi Shen said casually. "It's nothing, it's a small matter. Don't worry about it." Misa developed a sense of reverence for Yi Shen, who suddenly became incredibly brave in her eyes. Misa broke free from her father's embrace, wiped away her tears, and ran to Yi-Shen, flashing him a sweet, innocent smile. "You're really amazing. Why didn't you say so sooner? I wouldn't have outed you then. I hope we'll meet again someday. I heard you're leaving, which is a pity. I was planning to take you on a trip, but I wish you a safe journey and that you accomplish your mission soon." Yi-Shen, a head taller than Misa, reached out and patted her head. "No need to thank me. Your father has been worried about you and asked me to go. He hopes you'll be filial to your parents and a good child." Misa nodded firmly and replied, "I will. I will become that kind of person." Yi-Shen was pleased. After bidding farewell to Misa and her family, he left the place, heading to the martial arts tournament venue. On his way to the martial arts tournament, Yi-Shen encountered two strange people, leading to a minor incident. Yi-Shen was stopped by two men on a familiar road. These two men were rather odd-looking, to be precise. One was tall and fat, resembling a fat-headed fish, while the other was short and thin, like a monkey. They were dressed in tattered clothes and carried broken bowls, appearing to be begging. They stopped Yi-Shen and spoke to him. "Please have mercy, give us some money. We haven't eaten for 2 days, we're starving. Even a little food would be appreciated." Seeing that the two men truly looked like they hadn't eaten in a long time, Yi-Shen, out of pity, took out his own money and pulled out a bill, placing it in their tattered bowl. Unbeknownst to Yi-Shen, when the two strange men saw him take out money, their eyes lit up. They exchanged glances and nodded, seemingly reaching some kind of agreement. However, Yi-Shen didn't see any of this. He didn't realize he'd been tricked. Just as Yi-Shen was about to leave, the two men stopped him again. The fat man handed Yi-Shen a bowl of water. Yi-Shen didn't know what they were doing until the skinny man said, "Thank you for your generosity. You're a good person. We don't have anything good, just water to drink. You look like you're in a hurry, you must be thirsty. Please have some water." Chapter 564 Lessons. What he said was indeed true. Yi-Shen was indeed thirsty, and these two men, feigning innocence, had tricked him. All of this stemmed from Yi-Shen's excessive kindness. These two exploited Yi-Shen's compassion, causing him to be deceived. Without suspicion, Yi-Shen took the bowl of water and drank it in front of them. Soon after drinking the water, Yi-Shen felt a pain in his genitals and a slight dizziness. He felt extremely unwell and sensed something was wrong, beginning to suspect something was amiss. But gradually, Yi-Shen felt his strength waning, and he realized he had been tricked, but by then it was too late. In fact, these two people posing as beggars were a duo called the Pig-Deer-Butterfly Duo. They liked to feign pitifulness to attract sympathy, then take advantage of the situation, drugging unsuspecting victims with sedative-laced water or food, stealing their valuables while they were unconscious. However, they didn't know what kind of person Yi-Shen was, and they definitely couldn't bring him down with ordinary sleeping pills. Yi-Shen felt a little dizzy at first, and after a while, he felt the effects of the drug weakening, but he still wanted to continue the charade. Because Yi-Shen was in good physical condition, the effects of the drug only lasted for less than half an hour. During this half hour, the Pig-Deer-Butterfly Duo searched Yi-Shen for money. The Pig-Deer-Butterfly Duo found all the money on Yi-Shen's body, as well as some magical artifacts he carried. When they saw so much money, they were stunned, and the skinny monkey among them said, "I never expected this person to be so rich, actually the richest person we've met. These people are greedy for money, acting like they've struck it rich." They took out all the money Yi-Shen had, but when faced with these magical treasures, they didn't know what to do. The Pig-Deer-Butterfly Duo were completely bewildered when they saw these magical treasures, because they didn't know how to use them. They were incredibly ignorant. These magical treasures were actually worth far more than money. So when they were about to throw them away, Yi-Shen decided to stop acting. Yi-Shen almost laughed, because these people were so ignorant, actually thinking that these magical treasures weren't as important as money. Yi-Shen suddenly stood up from the ground, startling the two men, who quickly retreated. The two men were terrified, and the fat-headed fish pointed at Yi-Shen in surprise and said, How did you stand up? Weren't you knocked out by our sleeping potion?" Yi-Shen replied disdainfully. "You think you can knock me out with tricks like that? You should go back and practice more." Seeing Yi-Shen's disdainful attitude, the two men became agitated and angrily said, "Who do you think you are? You dare to talk to us like that? You must have a death wish. In this desolate place, you alone have no chance against both of us. So today, you've provoked us, Don't blame us for being ruthless and dumping your body in the wilderness." Yi-Shen was too lazy to waste words with him. As night deepened, he decided to leave, not wanting to waste time with him. However, he was once again blocked by these two overconfident individuals. When Yi-Shen stood up, he dusted himself off and calmly walked up to the two men, exuding a powerful aura that made them feel oppressed. For some reason, the two men felt a sense of fear simply from Yi-Shen's appearance and aura, and they involuntarily backed away. Seeing Yi-Shen walking towards them, they almost wanted to run away as quickly as possible. But how could Yi-Shen let them escape? They still had all his money and some magical artifacts on them. When Yi-Shen walked up to them, he coldly said, "Give me back my things." Hearing this, the two shamelessly retorted, "Pa, what do you mean your things? Once they're in our hands, they're ours." Yi-Shen was furious, struggling to suppress his anger. Before he could explode, he spoke to the two men in a polite tone, "You'd better hand over your things quickly, or you'll provoke me. If I do, you'll never imagine the consequences." Because the two men didn't recognize Yi-Shen and didn't know his strength, they arrogantly said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to us like that? You think you can scare us like that? We won't give you our stuff. Come at us if you dare." Since these two had said so, it was tantamount to forcing Yi-Shen to take action. Yi-Shen, no longer showing mercy, decided to act and take the goods back. In reality, these two were very weak. They couldn't even withstand a single move from Yi-Shen. So, Yi-Shen only spent a few seconds knocking them to the ground and snatching everything that belonged to them back. Strangely enough, while Yi-Shen was disciplining these two, some other people passed by and witnessed the scene, leading to a misunderstanding. The passers-by assumed Yi-Shen was bullying them because the two were dressed in rags while Yi-Shen was well-dressed. When they saw this, they rushed over to stop Yi-Shen. They shielded the two swindlers and pointed at Yi-Shen indignantly. "What's wrong with you, young man? How dare you bully someone? Look at their age. You treat them like this and even steal their money. Look at what they're wearing. You're so rich, yet you still steal from others." Yi-Shen was utterly speechless and rolled his eyes. Yi-Shen was already wronged, and just as he was about to explain, the two cunning and treacherous con artists spoke up first. Yes, this person is bullying us. Please help us think of a way." This was like adding fuel to the fire, making the situation even more chaotic. Because the two members of the pig-deer butterfly duo looked more pitiful, those passing by naturally chose to believe them, already convinced that Yi-Shen was the bad guy. Yi-Shen was speechless. He was alone, and the events that had just occurred happened to pause at the moment those passers-by witnessed it, a truly coincidental coincidence. Yi-Shen was too lazy to explain. He didn't want to waste time. Since he had already retrieved his belongings, he might as well continue his journey and leave this chaotic place. Even if Yi-Shen wanted to leave, some people wouldn't let him go so easily, especially the crowd who had misunderstood him. They surrounded Yi-Shen, not wanting him to leave. Chapter 565 Night God. Since these people were ordinary villagers from nearby villages, Yi-Shen couldn't bring himself to attack them. However, they didn't trust him, putting him in a difficult position. Yi-Shen just wanted to leave as quickly as possible. The villagers wouldn't let him leave, even resorting to violence. Yi-Shen had no choice but to fight back, but even then, he was cautious, afraid of actually hurting innocent villagers. While Yi-Shen was being attacked, the Ino Shikacho duo secretly watched the spectacle, chuckling to themselves at their cleverness. Yi-Shen saw their smug expressions and his anger flared. He decided he would expose their true colors in front of everyone. Yi-Shen had to watch out for the villagers' chaotic attacks while controlling his strength to avoid hurting them. But the villagers continued their relentless pursuit, chasing and beating Yi-Shen, while the Ino Shikacho duo fanned the flames. "You absolutely mustn't let him get away with this. This guy is awful. He actually tried to steal our money. If we don't give it to him, he'll beat us up. He's too wicked. Don't let him get away with this," Yi-Shen shouted angrily. "Damn it, if you two dare say anything more, I'll take care of you right now. You dare slander me again and see what happens." The villagers thought Yi-Shen was threatening the pig-deer butterfly duo. The key was that these two swindlers were particularly good at playing the victim, immediately putting on a pitiful and frightened appearance, which garnered the villagers' sympathy. Yi-Shen was speechless, only hearing the villagers say, "This guy is really too wicked. He even tried to kill us to silence us. He's too despicable. We absolutely mustn't let him get away with this." Yi-Shen felt particularly wronged because no one believed him. Shen then decided to reveal the true identities of these two men to everyone present. He was certain that he would expose their identities as swindlers, otherwise, more people would be deceived and harmed in the future. Strangely, after Shen revealed the truth, the people present didn't believe him. They preferred to believe the two charlatans who were deliberately creating a scene rather than Shen's words. This made Shen even angrier. An argument broke out between Shen and the passers-by. Just as Shen was about to lose the argument, an old man stepped out from the crowd and spoke to everyone. "Friends, you've got the situation wrong." The old man's voice was loud and clear. When everyone heard it, they couldn't believe their ears, thinking the old man had made a mistake. A young man said to the old man, "Village chief, are you mistaken? We just saw this person about to beat up these two poor people. How could we be wrong?" The old man was actually the village chief of the next village, a highly respected figure in the village. No one would dare to contradict him when he spoke, but this time someone was questioning him. After the young man finished speaking, more people echoed him. "Yes, village chief, are you mistaken? Can't you see such an obvious relationship?" One person's words were a little impolite. He not only contradicted the village chief but also showed a slight disrespect in his tone. The village chief was a little angry when he heard this. It wasn't because the person was impolite, but because the person was so foolish, believing only what he saw without analyzing the actual situation. Actually, the village chief had witnessed everything that had happened to Shen and his friends. Because he was on another hilltop, he saw the entire incident unfold. Therefore, the village chief knew perfectly well who was right and who was wrong. Especially after seeing the large crowd gathered, he rushed over, wanting to give Shen a chance to clear up the misunderstanding. The village chief was exceptionally kind. He understood Shen's distress, feeling misunderstood and unable to defend himself. Because of the village chief's high status in the surrounding area, many people believed him, and his words carried weight. Therefore, the village chief decided to reveal the truth. He picked up his cane and gave the young man a heavy beating on the backside, scolding him, "How can you be so young and not have a brain? Do you think what you saw is necessarily the truth?" the young man asked, puzzled. "Isn't it?" The village chief grew even angrier. He angrily picked up his cane and slammed it heavily on the ground, saying, "Let me be frank with you all. Actually, you've all misunderstood these two outsiders. The strange-looking ones are the real swindlers. They're seasoned criminals who specialize in cheating people out of their money. So, what happened just now is simply this outsider discovering they were swindlers and teaching them a lesson." The village chief explained the situation in great detail, and everyone quickly understood what he meant. After the village chief finished speaking, about half the people believed him, while the other half remained skeptical, neither believing the village chief's words nor their own observations. They felt their own testimony had been misleading. Hearing someone defend him made Shen feel much better. Finally, someone believed him and stood up for him. Shen was very grateful to the old man and approached him, saying, "Thank you, sir, for standing up for me." The old man smiled kindly at Shen. "It's all right, these are minor matters. As long as I see it and know the truth, I will definitely stand up and explain it to you." The village chief was exceptionally kind-hearted. He stood up for Shen, helping him overcome this difficulty and gaining everyone's trust. Finally, Shen had the opportunity to continue his journey to the martial arts tournament venue. Although Shen and the village chief only had a brief encounter, Shen felt that this old man was like an old friend he had known for a long time, finding him particularly kind and lovable. Shen was finally able to leave the village smoothly. After leaving the village, he used his somersault cloud to quickly head to the martial arts tournament venue. Shen suddenly remembered the date of the martial arts tournament. He calculated the date and realized that there wasn't much time left before the tournament started. He had to hurry and reach the tournament venue as quickly as possible. The time for the world's #1 martial arts tournament was running out, time was dwindling, and Shen needed to work hard to reach his final destination. Shen was in a particularly good mood. As he traveled, he kept cheering himself on in his heart, hoping to achieve excellent results in this martial arts tournament as well. Chapter 566 Papaya Island. Almost every time Shen was about to seriously do something, something unexpected would always happen to disrupt his plans. While passing through a forest, Shen encountered a little fox named Jinji. Shen noticed that the little fox was injured and unable to run, only able to drag its injured leg slowly forward, step by step. It turned out the little fox was injured. No wonder it collapsed weakly after only a few steps. Yi-Shen found the little fox incredibly cute, its fur beautiful and pure in color. He liked the little fox very much and decided to help it. Yi-Shen couldn't ignore such a situation. He was always a kind-hearted person, so without hesitation, he picked up the fallen fox and treated it. When Yi-Shen went out this time, he carried a lot of medicine to treat wounds, so that when he encountered such a situation, he was able to take out what he needed from the universal capsule. Yi-Shen remembered that the medicines in the universal capsule were all prepared for him by Bulma. After their first encounter, Bulma had prepared a lot of medicine for treating bruises and sprains for Yi-Shen. Originally, Yi-Shen didn't want to accept these things because he thought they wouldn't be useful and would take up space and add weight, making him feel that they were particularly useless. However, this time they came in handy, and Yi-Shen felt that these things had some value. These medicines were very effective. After Yi-Shen applied the medicine to the little fox, it soon woke up from its coma. After waking up, the little fox saw Yi-Shen in front of it and realized that it was this person who had saved it. It was very grateful to Yi-Shen and said weakly, "Did you save me?" "Thank you so much." The fox's voice was incredibly cute, a kind of adorable animal sound that was very soothing to listen to. When the little fox, Jinji, woke up, he discovered that Yi-Shen had saved him. Jinji was extremely grateful. As a little fox, although he didn't have any special abilities, Jinji was never insignificant. He was a little fox with a mysterious identity. Jinji really liked young Yi-Shen, and Jinji's cuteness touched Yi-Shen's heart, so the two hit it off immediately and chatted happily. After Yi-Shen rescued the injured little fox, Jinji, the two unexpectedly developed a good friendship, becoming inseparable friends from the moment they met. Jinji, like a floodgate opened, kept telling Yi-Shen interesting stories from the past, and Yi-Shen was willing to open up and share his past with Jinji. Jinji was deeply captivated by Yi-Shen's stories, constantly pestering him to tell them more, and Yi-Shen enjoyed it immensely. When the little fox Jinji heard that Yi-Shen was going to Mugwa Island to participate in the martial arts tournament, he offered to help. Jinji took Yi-Shen to his home and lent him a small private plane. It turned out Jinji's family was quite wealthy. It turned out Jinji's help was simply providing Yi-Shen with a comfortable mode of transportation. So, Jinji and Yi-Shen agreed to fly to Mugwa Island the next morning, with Jinji piloting the plane. However, Yi-Shen had some doubts about Jinji's driving skills and directly complained. "I'm terrified of dying." "Are you sure your skills are up to par?" The little fox patted its chest confidently. "Don't worry, my skills are excellent. I've already flown thousands of kilometers." Seeing how confident the little fox, Jinji, was, Yi-Shen didn't want to directly criticize him. But how could flying a plane for thousands of kilometers prove one's skill? However, faced with Jinji's enthusiastic invitation, it seemed Yi-Shen had no choice but to bite the bullet and board Jinji's plane. Before that, though, he needed a good night's sleep. This was Yi-Shen's first time seeing what a fox's den was like. Everything was small and exquisite, arranged with meticulous care, so meticulous that Yi-Shen wondered if Jinji had obsessive-compulsive disorder. Jinji had given Yi-Shen the largest room, with a double bed. For Jinji, it was a large bed, but for Yi-Shen, it was a cramped single bed. It seemed Yi-Shen would have to sleep like this. But there was no other way. At least someone was willing to take him in, giving him a place to sleep and preventing him from enduring such a miserable existence. Yi-Shen slept soundly at the little fox Jinji's house, a very comfortable sleep, until he was awakened by Jinji's beautiful morning singing. Actually, Jinji sang every morning to warm up his voice, but it was particularly awful. When Yi-Shen heard it, he was immediately awakened, finding it unbearable. After being awakened, Yi-Shen couldn't fall back asleep. The devilish voice of Jinji kept echoing in his ears, scaring away all sleepiness. Yi-Shen had no choice but to get up, wash up, and have some breakfast at the little fox's house. After breakfast, the little fox prepared to fly Yi-Shen to Papaya Island, but just as they were leaving, a group of uninvited guests arrived, disrupting their plans. Looking at the menacing faces of the group, Yi-Shen could tell they were hardened killers, with many bloodstains on their hands and a long list of deaths. However, Yi-Shen didn't know their identities, so he asked the little fox Jinji, "Who are they? What brings them to your house?" "And they seem to have ill intentions," little fox replied. "They're local bandits, but I don't know why they're coming to my house. We usually keep to ourselves. What's gotten into them today?" Acting like madmen, little fox finished speaking, and the bandits drew closer. Only then could Yi-Shen see them clearly. Each bandit was holding a weapon, which, although strangely shaped, was straightforward and perfect for killing and fighting. The bandits approached Yi-Shen and Little Fox Gingy, speaking menacingly. "Gingy, look what you've done. Daring to act wildly on our turf. Since you've broken our rules, let's teach you a lesson today, let you know the taste of my fists, and see if you dare to do it again." If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567 Competition Rules. When the Little Fox Gingy heard this, he looked at the group of bandits with a bewildered expression. He didn't understand what he had done to offend them. Just as Gingy was about to explain, the bandit leader, without giving him a chance, directly sentenced him, saying decisively, "Don't try to get away with it. We're convinced you did it." Yi-Shen, not understanding what was going on, asked Gingy, "What happened between you? Why are they so sure it was you?" Gingy replied helplessly, "I guess they're trying to pin the blame on me to hide the truth. I've become their scapegoat." Hearing Gingy's explanation, Yi-Shen finally understood. It turned out the bandits were just looking for trouble, deliberately causing a scene. Yi-Shen couldn't stand it, he didn't want anyone to bully Gingy. Seeing the bandits causing such a ruckus, the bandits, unable to contain their anger, attacked the Little Fox, Gingy. Just as they were about to reach him, Yi-Shen pushed Gingy back and went to confront the bandits himself. These bandits weren't particularly skilled, only knowing some basic martial arts. Yi-Shen dealt with them with ease, but something was particularly difficult. Their specific tasks caused him to spend a considerable amount of time on them. Meanwhile, the Little Fox, Gingy, was already waiting for Yi-Shen on the plain. With the appointed time fast approaching, Yi-Shen was still entangled with the bandits. Yi-Shen couldn't worry about anything else, he wanted to help the Little Fox avenge him. He had already spent a lot of time, and he couldn't miss his flight, so he abandoned the bandits and headed towards the plain. Seeing that Yi-Shen was almost at the plain, the Little Fox, Gingy, lowered a ladder, hoping Yi-Shen could climb on. The bandits following behind were also quick, and they soon boarded Yi-Shen's plane. Yi-Shen wanted to climb onto the plane as quickly as possible, so he climbed the ladder, and the bandits behind him had no choice but to follow. Yi-Shen tried to kick the bandits up the ladder, but he couldn't push them down, they just kept climbing. Yi-Shen didn't want to waste any more time, so he quickly climbed onto the plane. However, one bandit had been secretly following him and climbed up as well. Taking advantage of Yi-Shen's inattention, he went to the cockpit. This bandit who had sneaked up was particularly despicable because after entering the cockpit, he went to control the aircraft's controls, causing a major malfunction that rendered the plane unusable. Unable to repair the plane quickly, Yi-Shen and the Little Fox Gingy had to abandon their plan to fly to Papaya Island. After the plane malfunctioned, the Little Fox Gingy felt particularly guilty, because she believed that it was because of her that these powerful figures had come to cause her trouble, ruining Yi-Shen's plan to reach Papaya Island. Yi-Shen was extremely angry, but not because of the Little Fox Gingy, he was angry because of this group of unreasonable and powerful bandits. It was because of these bandits' troublemaking that his plans had failed. In his anger, Yi-Shen wanted nothing more than to eliminate all these bandits, and he did just that. After getting off the plane, he immediately attacked the bandits, intending to take them down. Yi-Shen's attack was overwhelming, the bandits were no match for him and suffered a terrible beating. However, in the end, Yi-Shen softened his stance and spared their lives. After Yi-Shen released them, the bandits seized the opportunity and fled in a panic. Their decision to cause trouble for the Little Fox was truly foolish. Encountering the powerful Yi-Shen was their worst misfortune. They had been thoroughly taught a lesson by Yi-Shen, and for a long time afterward, these bandits dared not bother the Little Fox Gingy again. After Yi-Shen couldn't fly to Papaya Island, he had to swim there. His Little Fox, Gingy, was constantly blaming himself for it, but Yi-Shen comforted him, saying it was alright. Meanwhile, on the other side, Master Roshi was also heading to Papaya Island with a group to participate in the martial arts tournament. Because Master Roshi's journey was progressing exceptionally smoothly, he quickly arrived at the tournament venue on Papaya Island with his group. Master Roshi and his men arrived on Papaya Island before Yi-Shen and his group. Yi-Shen arrived on Papaya Island the day after Master Roshi. When he arrived, he was exhausted, as he had expended a great deal of energy swimming there. He needed to rest for a few days before the competition to recover. On his first day on Papaya Island, Yi-Shen chose a nice hotel to stay in. He slept for 2 days before his body began to recover. When Yi-Shen felt his body was almost fully recovered and he wasn't so tired anymore, he went out to check on the situation. After Yi-Shen went out, he met many familiar masters. He wandered around Papaya Island, encountering many people he knew before, all of whom were incredibly strong. Yi-Shen guessed they were there to participate in the martial arts tournament being held on Papaya Island. It seemed this tournament would be a gathering of top masters, and the matches would be spectacular. Yi-Shen was even more excited for the competition. During another rest, he overheard some very important news. The tournament's format had changed this year. The rules were more flexible, no longer requiring paired matches, allowing Yi-Shen to choose to participate later in the tournament. On a beach on Papaya Island, Yi-Shen met Master Roshi and his team, as well as Yamcha and Kirin. Yi-Shen was overjoyed, as he hadn't seen many familiar faces in a long time. This trip to Papaya Island had unexpectedly brought him many old friends. Yi-Shen greeted Kulin and Yamcha warmly, and soon after, Master Roshi invited him to play with him. With 2 or 3 days until the competition, Master Roshi and his team were resting. They were currently playing beach volleyball on the beach. Yi-Shen seemed quite interested in beach volleyball, so he readily joined in. After sleeping for 2 consecutive days, Yi-Shen had recovered his strength, so he played beach volleyball much more easily than the others. Yi-Shen was very clever, he could learn anything quickly. Even though he didn't know how to play beach volleyball before, after watching others play a few times, he quickly learned and mastered it. Chapter 568 Withdrawal from the competition. Kulin and Yamcha watched Yi-Shen having a great time, both admiring and envying his intelligence and strength. Yi-Shen had a particularly enjoyable time with his old friends. After a pleasant outing, he returned to his hotel. However, upon arriving, he felt fatigued and sleepy. He quickly washed up and went to bed, but 2 days passed without him realizing it. When he woke up, he thought it was still early, but upon reaching the hotel lobby, he learned that the competition was about to begin. With only an hour left before the martial arts tournament started, Yi-Shen was extremely anxious. Without hesitation, he immediately set off for the competition venue. He rushed off, running as fast as he could, and burst into the arena just before it closed. Fortunately, Yi-Shen was lucky enough to enter the competition venue at the last minute, and a fierce and exciting match was about to begin. Inside the venue was the opening ceremony, featuring many exciting and entertaining performances. The stands were already packed with spectators, all eager to watch the martial arts tournament. Although the opening ceremony's programs were impressive, the audience wanted to see a passionate and intense competition, not just song and dance performances. Their enthusiasm was burning. They wanted to see a match full of heat and passion. After learning that the competition rules had changed, Yi-Shen adjusted her strategy. She decided she couldn't participate in every match like last time. She decided to wait until the final selection was complete, then find opponents of similar skill levels to compete against, thus conserving her energy. The opening ceremony had only a few programs, so it ended quickly, and then came the most anticipated part, the official competition. Once the competition officially began, Yi-Shen found a seat in the stands and quietly watched the match. It was an intense and exhilarating contest. Before this, Yi-Shen had only heard that the participants in this martial arts tournament were generally quite strong, but he wasn't sure exactly how strong. Therefore, he wanted to observe the first few matches to judge the strength of the participants. At the start of the competition, many people eagerly wanted to go on stage to compete. Yi-Shen, however, remained quietly in the stands, waiting for the best opportunity. He carefully watched the first few matches and observed that while the participants weren't particularly strong, they all performed exceptionally well, without any obvious mistakes. This showed that these participants had participated in many competitions and possessed rich experience in on-the-spot reactions. Therefore, based solely on this, Yi-Shen couldn't deduce the strength of the remaining participants. Thus, he could only continue to watch the following matches attentively. While watching the matches, Yi-Shen saw 2 familiar friends take the stage, Kulin and Yamcha. They were each facing different opponents. Yi-Shen knew these 2 very well, as they were friends. He had great confidence in Yamcha, believing he could easily pass the preliminary rounds. However, he wasn't so sure about Kulin. Unbeknownst to Yi-Shen, in the long time since they parted, Ku Lin had diligently practiced at home and made significant progress, far surpassing his previous improvement. Yi Shen watched his two old friends intently as they competed. Yamcha finished first, easily defeating his opponent and winning the preliminary round. Following Yamcha's victory, Colin also defeated his opponent and luckily passed the preliminary rounds. Watching them compete, Yi Shen thought to himself that they shouldn't be in such a rush, shouldn't have entered the competition so early. They should have waited until later to conserve their energy. In events like this with free-form rules, you need to analyze the situation carefully and choose the best approach. While it might seem heroic to participate in every match, this isn't a pure hero's game, you still need strategy. Yi Shen felt a pang of regret for Ku Lin and Yamcha. They should have discussed this sooner. Since participating in the last martial arts tournament, Yi Shen had accumulated a lot of experience, and he wasn't as anxious for this match. Yi Shen clearly remembered the feeling of winning and losing, and the desire to win, all written on his face during his last tournament, which put him under immense pressure. So this time, Yi Shen needed to relax and maintain a good mindset. Although he had rested for several days, the overexertion from the last tournament had left him feeling very tired, and he hadn't fully recovered. He wanted to use this time in the tournament to recuperate and get back to his best condition. At this moment, Yi Shen seemed to disregard his status as a competitor, viewing the competition as a casual spectator. The matches were intensifying, with many top fighters already taking to the field. Watching these exciting and intense games, Yi Shen felt his blood boiling, but he had to suppress his excitement. In martial arts tournaments like this, injuries were inevitable. After watching many matches, Yi Shen noticed numerous injuries. Some fighters had to withdraw from the competition, unable to continue. Winning required paying a price. Why were these people so desperate to win? Because the prize money for this year's martial arts tournament was exceptionally generous and attractive, driving them to fight tooth and nail for it. Chapter 569 Dark Horse. Unlike Yi Shen, who was focused on honor rather than such things, Yi Shen was excited about the match. Just as he was engrossed in watching the game, he saw a familiar opponent enter the arena. Yi Shen clearly remembered who it was. This familiar figure was the previous martial arts tournament champion. Yi Shen remembered it very clearly. He even recalled his previous match against Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan was incredibly strong, and Yi Shen remembered how long their fight had taken, ultimately ending in a draw, which left him feeling particularly disappointed. Therefore, when Yi Shen saw Jackie Chan enter the arena, he couldn't contain his desire to compete. A master like Jackie Chan could easily defeat opponents in the early stages of the match. Sure enough, Jackie Chan defeated his opponent in just a minute or two. Yi Shen then entered the arena, facing an opponent whose strength was unclear. Yi Shen only knew that his opponent had a high status, named King Jappa. After one round with his opponent, Yi Shen knew the extent of his strength. Yi Shen judged that this person's strength wasn't particularly strong, but it wasn't particularly weak either. Among all the competitors, he was of average strength. Yi Shen easily defeated King Jappa and smoothly advanced to the next round. Master Wu Tian has 3 disciples, Yi Shen, Ku Lin, and Yamcha. Now, all 3 of Master Wu Tian's disciples have entered the top 8. When the media learned of this, they interviewed Master Wu Tian and reported extensively on the matter. After Yi Shen and Yamcha entered the top 8, Master Wu Tian's reputation spread far and wide. He is now extremely famous, and many people want to become his disciples. Having heard how powerful his 3 disciples are, Master Wu Tian has become even more sought after. However, after this event, many people couldn't find Master Wu Tian and instead went to find his disciples. However, Yi Shen and Yamcha didn't know where Master Roshi had gone, so they began to suspect that he might have disappeared. Worried that Master Roshi might be in danger, they started searching for him after failing to find him. While some went to look for Master Roshi, Yi Shen and Yamcha couldn't leave because the second qualifying match was about to begin. Yi Shen cared a lot about the quarterfinals of the martial arts tournament and even checked the list of upcoming matches himself. He saw that Yamcha's next opponent was named Tian Xinhan, but he hadn't seen his name yet. Yamcha's match against Tian Xinhan was the first one in the quarterfinals. Yi Shen told Yamcha this news. Yamcha, your next opponent is Tian Xinhan. Do you know him? Yamcha shook his head. I haven't heard of him. I don't remember his name being mentioned in last year's competition. Could he be a newcomer? Yi Shen wasn't entirely sure either, so he simply said. Probably. Anyway, I've never heard of him before. I don't know his strength or his playing style. You'd better be careful with such a dark horse, Yamcha nodded confidently. Don't worry, you should know my strength well. Don't you trust me? Someone like him isn't worthy of being called a dark horse. Don't worry, I will definitely win. Seeing Yamcha's confident demeanor, Yi-Shen was actually quite worried about Yamcha's upcoming match, fearing that Yamcha would lose due to underestimating his opponent. What happened next confirmed Yi-Shen's fears. Yamcha lost his quarterfinal match, losing to this person he called an unknown. But they were unaware of all this yet. Yamcha was secretly pleased with himself as he awaited the start of the match, while on the other side, his opponent was warming up before the match. His opponent valued this match more than he did. In terms of attitude alone, Yamcha had already lost. The match anthem sounded, and the quarterfinals began. The first two contestants to take the stage were Yamcha and Tien Shinhan. Yamcha, as a popular choice, received a lot of cheers from the audience, most of whom knew him. In contrast, Tien Shinhan received very little cheering, almost none. In the huge arena, no one called Tien Shinhan's name, a stark contrast to Yamcha. Yamcha was still immersed in the cheers, while Tien Shinhan was only thinking about how to win this match. The whistle blew, and the audience gradually stopped shouting. The arena quieted down, and everyone's eyes were on the stage, anticipating the match. The match began. Yamcha wanted to politely give his opponent a break, but to his surprise, Tien Shinhan launched a relentless and aggressive attack. Although Yamcha initially dodged Tien Shinhan's attacks, he still showed signs of being somewhat overwhelmed. However, Yamcha was unaware that this wasn't Tien Shinhan's full strength, and that Yamcha had completely underestimated him the previous night. After this setback, Yamcha became serious and focused, abandoning his carefree attitude and dedicating himself fully to the match. Once Yamcha became serious, the situation improved slightly. He was no longer so passive, and both sides launched fierce attacks, neither willing to give an inch. Yamcha possessed extensive match experience, able to quickly adjust his state during the match, while Tien Shinhan was far inferior in this aspect. Gradually, Yamcha seized the initiative. Seeing that the time was right, Yamcha decided to use his ultimate move, Wolf Fang Wind Fist. The match became increasingly intense. After Yamcha unleashed the Wolf Fang Wind Fist, his powerful attack hurtled towards Tien Shinhan like a vicious wolf. Tien Shinhan was startled by Yamcha's attack and immediately retreated. When Yamcha saw this, he was overjoyed, thinking that he could finally defeat Tien Shinhan. However, he did not expect that this was the beginning of his being tricked. Chapter 570 Compromise. After unleashing his Wolf Fang Wind Slash, it transformed into the shape of a hungry wolf, which bit Tien Shinhan's arm. No matter how hard Tien Shinhan shook it off, it wouldn't budge. The more he struggled, the tighter the wolf's grip became. Tien Shinhan, however, remained remarkably calm. His mind raced, searching for a solution. Before long, he devised a way to counter Yamcha's ultimate attack. However, Tien Shinhan didn't show it, instead feigning extreme pain, successfully deceiving Yamcha. Seeing this, Yamcha believed it was real, genuinely thinking Tien Shinhan was about to succumb to his attack and that he was on the verge of defeat. In that moment of carelessness and distraction, Tien Shinhan seized the opportunity and reacted instantly. Tien Shinhan, using all his strength, broke free from Yamcha's powerful Wolf Fang Fist and charged directly at him. Yamcha hesitated for a second, and in that split second, Tien Shinhan struck him, shoving him violently to the ground. Yamcha's shin bone struck a sharp point, making a loud cracking sound, and his leg was broken. When Yamcha realized what had happened, all he felt was intense pain. Trying to get up, he felt excruciating pain in his leg, almost unable to stand. Touching his leg, he realized it was broken. When Yi-Shen, watching from the audience, saw the agony on Yamcha's face, the clear pain deeply paining him, and more importantly, enraging him, he vowed not to let this Tien Shinhan get away with it. As Yamcha's best friend, Yi-Shen swore to avenge him and defeat Tien Shinhan in the next match. Yi-Shen silently remembered this grudge, keeping it to himself and not showing it. He quickly ran to the stage and helped the injured Yamcha down. After helping Yamcha down, Yi-Shen was very worried about his condition, seeing that his calf was covered in blood, which was still flowing out and some of it seemed to be starting to scab over. He knew it must be very painful. Seeing Yamcha's pained expression made Yi-Shen even angrier, and he immediately took Yamcha to the hospital. Yi-Shen felt a little regretful. He shouldn't have reminded Yamcha to be careful of his opponent before the match. Now that Yamcha had suffered this, Yi-Shen focused all his attention on himself, determined to win the final match for Yamcha. This would also give Yamcha some pride. The second match of the quarterfinals was a duel between the previous champion, Jackie Chan, and his sworn enemy. Jackie Chan's sworn enemy is the werewolf. Their feud dates back 5 years. 5 years ago, Jackie Chan encountered the werewolf, and just as the werewolf was about to transform into human form, Jackie Chan thwarted his plan. This prevented the werewolf from successfully becoming human, an event the werewolf held a deep grudge against. He relentlessly sought revenge against Jackie Chan, constantly seeking retribution in his daily life. After hearing that Jackie Chan had signed up for the martial arts tournament, the werewolf also signed up, hoping to defeat Jackie Chan and prevent him from winning the championship. Although martial arts tournaments are generally limited to friendly competition and don't involve life-threatening situations, the feud between the werewolf and Jackie Chan couldn't be stopped by the rules of a competition. It had become a life-or-death battle. Yip Sing, only noticing something amiss during the match, learned about this from the audience. He was completely unaware of this story surrounding Jackie Chan. It has to be said that these spectators were quite well informed, and this information was mostly from rumors that weren't widely known, which Yi-Shen only learned about today. Yi-Shen was actually very interested in this matter. He wanted to know the details of the feud between Jackie Chan and the werewolf. What intrigued Yi-Shen even more was the werewolf's actual strength and who would ultimately win the upcoming match. Before the martial arts tournament began, Yi-Shen considered the previous champion, Jackie Chan, his strongest opponent. He believed that both had made significant progress in their abilities over the past year. Yi-Shen wanted to know how strong Jackie Chan was now, and watching his matches might help him assess his improvement. The match between Jackie Chan and the werewolf was particularly exciting, and Jackie Chan's strength once again astonished Yi-Shen. This match was a life-or-death struggle. Neither Jackie Chan nor the werewolf dared to relax. Perhaps only through such a method could their feud be resolved. Some things simply couldn't be discussed openly. Jackie Chan's strength had exceeded most people's expectations, and even Yi-Shen found it unbelievable. However, when Jackie Chan used his ultimate move but failed to inflict any substantial damage on the werewolf, Yi-Shen was completely stunned. Yi-Shen had initially thought Jackie Chan was already very strong, but he hadn't expected the werewolf to be nearly as powerful. Now it seemed that Yi-Shen's formidable opponent wasn't just Jackie Chan, but also the werewolf. While Yi-Shen was still immersed in this exciting performance, Jackie Chan and the werewolf were completely focused on the match. Jackie Chan didn't dare to relax for a moment, and the question of victory wasn't their primary concern. Defeating their opponent was secondary. This match was arguably the most exciting so far, ending in Jackie Chan's victory. The werewolf, however, was still unwilling to give up, but Jackie Chan no longer wanted to fight him. The werewolf said with great resentment, "So what if you kill me today? I'll keep bothering you from now on. If you're so capable, then keep hiding from me. Don't let me find out anything about you, or you'll never have a peaceful day. This is the price you pay for ruining my transformation into human form." The werewolf harbored a deep grudge against Jackie Chan for disrupting his plans. Jackie Chan, exhausted and wanting nothing more to do with the werewolf, finally relented. "What will it take for you to stop? How about this? I'll help you transform into human form, and then you can let me go." This was indeed a very good offer, and the werewolf had always wanted to become human. Now that Jackie Chan had offered it, he felt a little awkward because they were enemies. Chapter 571 Souls Lost Under the Blade. The werewolf didn't immediately agree, but instead raised a question first. He asked, "Are you serious? You have this ability? Don't lie to me, or you'll be in big trouble." Yi-Shen found this scene a little amusing, because the werewolf seemed a bit simple-minded. If Jackie Chan really wanted to lie to him, it would be easy to do so. But Jackie Chan wasn't lying. This time he was serious. "Jackie Chan does indeed have the ability to turn werewolves into human form," he said confidently. "Believe it or not, if you miss this opportunity, you'll never be able to become human again. No one else in this world besides me has the ability to turn you into human." Jackie Chan's words were incredibly tempting for the werewolf, who couldn't resist the temptation and agreed to let Jackie Chan try. Jackie Chan didn't disappoint anyone. After using a few incantations, the werewolf transformed from a half-human, half-wolf into human, looking almost indistinguishable from a real person. Yi-Shen found it incredibly amazing. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the werewolf transformed into human form, further amplifying Jackie Chan's fame. His story was widely circulated and even mythologized, with many idolizing him. Jackie Chan's match was over. He not only won but also ended the werewolf's relentless pursuit, a double celebration. The next match was between 290 and his opponent, Kulin. Kulin prepared nervously, lacking confidence for his upcoming match. Before the match, Kulin learned his opponent's name was Dumpling, a strange name, and he tried to learn more about him, but without much information. Only after the match began did Kulin truly understand Dumpling's abilities. Dumpling possessed many incredible powers, such as walking and hovering in the air, and using fire within his body to incinerate human flesh. At the start of their exchange, Kulin was caught off guard, as he had never encountered an opponent with such extraordinary abilities. Given the unusual nature of his opponent, Kulin was unsure how to proceed. He looked to Yi Shen below the stage for help, and Yi Shen mouthed the message, "Respond to each move as it comes." This was the only advice Yi Shen could offer Kulin. In a martial arts tournament like this, many unparalleled masters participated, and encountering an opponent he had never faced before was normal. However, even if he did, he should remain calm and not panic. Kulin understood Yi Shen's meaning and gradually calmed himself. After such a long period of secluded training, and with guidance from Master Roshi and Master Roshi, Kulin's progress must have been immense. Unfortunately, he had never had an opportunity to showcase his abilities, so he didn't know how his strength compared to others. Today, however, presented a chance to test his training results. Kulin silently cheered himself on. Kulin regained his confidence and faced his opponent with much more ease. He had gradually become accustomed to Jiaozi's special abilities and was no longer caught off guard as before. Gradually, Kulin found his rhythm, and the match became increasingly smooth. At the same time, his opponent, Jiaozi, began to exert himself even more. Both were locked in a fierce battle, and the scene became increasingly tense, to the point that the match dragged on for a long time without a clear winner. Not only were the competitors exhausted, but even the spectators in the stands were weary. The match had been going on for quite some time without a clear winner, and with the end time approaching, the referee came onto the stage and announced that the match was temporarily suspended and would continue the next day. The outcome of the match remained uncertain. Because the match had lasted too long, the organizers, considering the competitors' physical exhaustion and the inability to showcase their true strength or deliver the most exciting match, postponed the match to the next day. This was the first time such a situation had occurred in the history of the martial arts tournament. When Kulin stepped off the stage, his legs were trembling. He was extremely tired. The match had drained him of his energy. Yi Shen and Yamcha noticed something was wrong and quickly went to Kulin's side, supporting him and taking him back to his lodgings. During this martial arts tournament, one person's appearance was particularly unexpected. He was lurking in the audience. This person was Master Crane. Master Crane's purpose in coming here was to avenge his younger brother. After hearing that his brother had been killed by Yi Shen, Master Crane was determined to seek revenge. Now that he had finally found Yi Shen's whereabouts, he naturally wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. When Yi Shen and Yamcha brought Kulin back to the hotel, Master Crane secretly followed them, returning to the hotel where they were staying that night. However, Yi Shen was unaware of all this. That night, Master Crane found out Yi Shen's room number and planned to ambush him to avenge his brother. As night fell, the Crane Master, who had been lurking around Yi Shen, waited for his opportunity. Seeing Yi Shen return to his room, he secretly hid on the balcony outside Yi Shen's room and climbed in. The master had successfully entered Yi Shen's room. He planned to ambush him while he slept. So the Crane Master quietly hid behind the window, waiting for Yi Shen to fall asleep. The waiting was agonizing. The Crane Master's nerves were on edge, and he dared not breathe. When he saw Yi Shen go to bed, the master was overjoyed. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. About half an hour after Yi Shen had fallen asleep, the Crane Master tiptoed out from behind the curtains and took out the dagger he carried. The Crane Master approached Yi Shen's bedside and raised the dagger high, ready to stab him. Just then, Yi Shen's eyes suddenly opened, startling the Crane Master, who quickly retreated. Suddenly, the scene became extremely awkward. Yi Shen had always had a habit of being a very light sleeper. No matter where he was sleeping, he was always very vigilant, remaining cautious regardless of his surroundings. This time was no exception. Thankfully, Yi Shen was a light sleeper, otherwise, he would already be a victim of Master Crane's blade. Yi Shen asked sharply, "Who are you? What do you want? What are you doing with that head?" Master Crane tensed up, quickly hiding the head in his hand and speaking nervously. Chapter 572 Trick. I've got the wrong person. I'm sorry, I'll leave now. With that, Crane Immortal prepared to flee. Yi Shen, not believing Crane Immortal's excuse, stopped him, saying, "Your excuse is far too weak. Do you think I'd believe it? You'd better tell me your purpose honestly, or I won't let you go." Crane Immortal already knew he couldn't fool him, so he simply pushed Yi Shen aside and changed his tune. "That's right, I came to kill you. You killed my brother, and I want to avenge him." Yi Shen couldn't understand what Crane Immortal was saying. He asked in confusion, "Who is your brother? When did I kill him?" Crane Immortal became even angrier. The person who killed his brother didn't even remember it. But Yi Shen really couldn't recall who he had killed. Although Yi Shen's hands were covered in blood, he believed he had only killed those who deserved to die, those who were utterly wicked. Therefore, Yi Shen felt there was nothing to apologize for. Yi Shen asked, his face full of doubt. "Who is your brother? I don't even know him. Don't make baseless accusations against me. You need to provide evidence." Master Crane became even angrier, pointing at Yi Shen and cursing loudly. "You dare not admit what you did? What kind of hero are you? I'll expose your true colors to everyone. Let everyone know you're a despicable villain." Yi Shen felt slandered and angrily retorted, "Don't make baseless accusations like that. You need to provide evidence for your words. You have to take responsibility for your careless talk." After Yi Shen finished speaking, Master Crane's emotions flared up. Dissatisfied with Yi Shen's words, he immediately started fighting. Yi Shen didn't want to fight Master Crane, but Master Crane kept pressing him, forcing Yi Shen to intervene. In the end, a fierce battle ensued. However, this fight ended in Yi Shen's victory, and Master Crane had no choice but to slink away. After Master Crane left, Yi Shen closed the doors and windows of his room again and went back to bed to continue sleeping. Because there was a match the next day, Yi Shen dared not stay up late. In order to maintain sufficient energy and stamina for the match, Yi Shen made sure to get enough sleep. After this incident, Yi Shen became more careful about his sleeping environment, checking the room and balcony thoroughly. Since it was Master Crane's brother's matter, Yi Shen didn't dwell on it, assuming Master Crane had made a mistake and contacted the wrong person. So, he moved on and didn't care. The next day, Yi Shen rushed to participate in the day's matches. The first match was still between Kirin and Chiatsu, with Yi Shen's match scheduled for the second. After yesterday's match, Kirin had been analyzing Chiatsu's tactics, and after much reflection, he devised a better strategy. Colin felt he had gained considerable confidence in defeating Chiatsu. His eyes changed after stepping onto the stage, becoming more determined and powerful. Actually, Kirin had learned the Kamehameha long ago, but he had never dared to use it because he lacked confidence. He was afraid his Kamehameha would be flawed and something unexpected would happen. So, now that he had confidence, Kirin used the Kamehameha on the fighting stage to fight Chiatsu. The Kamehameha is indeed a very powerful move. When Colin used it, his opponent, Jiozi, was completely unable to withstand its power, and was thus defeated. Especially after being defeated by Kulin. Jiozi was still reeling from the shock, because today's Kulin was very different from yesterday's. Kulin's strength was exceptionally high. Jiozi was quite surprised. Kulin's first match of the day went very smoothly. He defeated Jiozi within a few rounds. Kulin had already defeated Jiozi, securing victory in this match. Now, it was Yi Shen's turn for the second match. Yi Shen was very much looking forward to seeing who his next opponent would be. Backstage at the match, one person was attracting a lot of attention, a very famous Kung Fu superstar. Although Kung Fu superstars are usually very tough, true Iron Men, this Kung Fu superstar had a very cute and endearing name, Puff. This name created a charming contrast with his image, thus attracting more fans. This Kung Fu superstar's participation in the competition attracted a lot of attention from the media and his fans. He participated to boost his fame, but he even resorted to despicable means to win the match. This Kung Fu superstar, nicknamed Puff, sent his agent to deceive Yi Shen in order to win the fight. In fact, Puff was quite self-aware. He knew he couldn't win with his mediocre skills, so he had to find other ways to secure the match. If Puff won even one match in the martial arts tournament, he could write numerous announcements and report his achievements to the authorities, giving him more to boast about. Puff's agent approached Yi Shen, patted him on the shoulder, and whispered in his ear, The staff told me the venue for the next match has been changed. When Yishen heard the news, he hesitated slightly. He didn't recognize Puff's manager and assumed she was a staff member, especially since her attire did resemble that. Yishen almost believed her, and just as he was about to leave the venue with Puff's manager, he was stopped by others. Puff's manager, wanting Puff to win the match, had gone so far as to lie to Yishen, telling him the venue had changed and he couldn't participate on time. If Yishen missed the match, Puff could easily take advantage and win. The plan seemed perfect, but Lanky, standing beside him, saw through the manager's scheme. He stopped Yishen and said, "Don't believe him. He's lying to you. I saw him talking to someone over there, discussing how to trick you." Although Yishen believed Lanky, he didn't understand why this person wanted to deceive him, so he asked Puff's manager very seriously. Chapter 573 Unexpected. My friend says you're lying to me. Are you really a staff member here? Seeing Yishen's sharp gaze, Puff's manager, completely overwhelmed by the question, whispered the truth. Actually, I'm not a staff member here. I'm your opponent's manager. I came up with this method to help him win the match. After learning the truth, Yishen immediately left and prepared to go on stage for the match. He didn't want to waste any more time on someone like this. After Yishen learned who the next opponent was, he wasn't too worried. He knew his opponent was just a showy but ineffective fighter, so he didn't take him seriously. Even before the match, Yishen was leisurely drinking tea. When the match officially began, Yishen confidently stood on the fighting stage, but when he saw his opponent's trembling appearance, he found it a little funny. If he didn't have real skills, why participate in this match? Was it just to gain prestige and have something to brag about? If that were truly the case, then there would be no need to participate in such a competition without real skill. Otherwise, one would inevitably suffer a crushing defeat and gain no good reputation. Yishen simply couldn't understand why a kung fu giant like Puff would participate in such a real-life combat competition. When the match officially began, Yishen defeated his opponent in just one round, using only one move. Even the audience was stunned, as they had never seen a martial arts competition concluded in a single round. Now, Puff's reputation was far from being renowned. It would be fortunate if it wasn't infamous. The photographers from various media outlets, who had been arranged to capture Puff's spectacular performance and publish it, only managed to capture images of Puff being brutally beaten, none of which were suitable for reporting. This time, Puff's plan failed. He not only wasted a lot of money but also ruined his reputation. In fact, what the major media outlets captured this time was far more sensational than what they had captured before, because this kind of news is exactly what people want to talk about during their leisure time. Puff's incident didn't make the headlines in the sports section, but instead made the headlines in the entertainment gossip section. This was a complete loss for Puff. Puff was slunk off the fighting ring, and then Yagami left the ring, feeling that the match was completely meaningless. Yishen easily won the fourth match, thus smoothly advancing to the top four. After Yishen's match, it was Jackie Chan's turn. Jackie Chan's opponent this time was Tien Shinhan. Tien Shinhan had just fought Yamcha, defeating him with extremely despicable means, which Yishen still remembered. Yishen hoped that Jackie Chan could teach Tien Shinhan a lesson when facing him. Yishen had been eagerly anticipating a match against Tien Shinhan, which would give him a legitimate and justifiable opportunity to teach Tien Shinhan a lesson. There was a rule during the competition that fighters were prohibited from engaging in any fighting due to personal grudges. Anyone caught doing so would be disqualified. Therefore, Yishen hadn't yet taught Tien Shinhan a lesson. However, Yishen would eventually do it. Yamcha's leg was still injured, and the pain from his fractured shin bone was unimaginable. Before the match, Yishen privately instructed Chen Ling to be especially careful of Tien Shinhan's potential underhanded tactics. Jackie Chan heeded Yishen's advice and paid special attention to this during the match, ensuring he wasn't attacked by Tien Shinhan. Both Jackie Chan and Tien Shinhan had meticulously prepared before going on stage. This match was crucial, and neither dared to relax. Tien Shinhan, brimming with confidence, launched the attack. Jackie Chan, also in excellent form, handled the situation with ease, effortlessly countering Tien Shinhan's powerful assault. During the fight, Jackie Chan seized an opportunity and unleashed his signature after-image fist technique against Tien Shinhan, but Tien Shinhan neutralized it. Jackie Chan was astonished. His attack had been so easily countered. He was somewhat disappointed, realizing Tien Shinhan's strength was unexpected. It seemed Jackie Chan would have to resort to his most powerful techniques. After Tian Xinhan neutralized his powerful attack, Jackie Chan changed his strategy. He abandoned ordinary moves like the afterimage fist and instead unleashed a more mysterious and powerful technique. When Yi Shen watched the fight between Jackie Chan and Tian Xinhan from the audience, he was quite surprised. Logically, given Jackie Chan's strength, he shouldn't have allowed Tian Xinhan to stay in the ring for so long. Had Jackie Chan's strength declined, or had Tian Xinhan deliberately concealed his true power in previous matches? Yi Shen's analysis suggested the latter was more likely. It seemed this Tian Xinhan was definitely not simple, at least not as strong as he appeared. The evenly matched fight between the two masters was particularly exciting. Both continued their relentless attacks, yet neither could gain the upper hand. Jackie Chan and Tian Xinhan continued fighting for 30 rounds. Son Goku also participated in this martial arts tournament, but Yi Shen didn't see him at the beginning. Son Goku, however, unintentionally turned around in the audience and spotted Yi Shen. Sun Wukong was overjoyed. It had been almost half a year since he'd last seen Yi Shen. Since their last parting, he hadn't seen Yi Shen at all. Sun Wukong moved to Yi Shen's seat, patted him on the shoulder, and said, "Hey, Yi Shen, long time no see. Are you here for the competition too?" Yi Shen turned around and saw Sun Wukong. He was surprised to see him here. Seeing his old friend, Yi Shen was very excited and stood up happily. He smiled and said, "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the competition." "And you?" Sun Wukong sat down and asked Yi Shen. "I just arrived today. I'm not here to compete, just to be a spectator." "How have you been lately?" Yi Shen replied. "I'm doing alright. I found all 7 Dragon Balls and completed the mission. Now it's time to continue," Sun Wukong said with a sigh. "I wonder when this will end. It's going to never stop. Don't you find it tiring?" If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574 Competition. Yi Shen had thought about this question before, and he already had an answer. "Actually, I've thought about this too, but I feel this is a very meaningful thing. It can not only maintain world peace and order, but also use the Dragon Balls to help more people." Goku greatly admired Yi Shen's persistence. "There aren't many people in this world who can do this. Most people nowadays are particularly selfish, especially when it comes to money and power." Currently, a very exciting match is taking place on the stage. Yi Shen and Goku's eyes are both focused on the stage. When Jackie Chan and Tian Xinhan are fighting fiercely, both Yi Shen and Goku are drawn in. Goku points to the match on the stage and asks Yi Shen, "What do you think of their strength? Who will win?" Yi Shen thinks for a moment, then replies to Goku. "Although I don't know them well, I fought Jackie Chan last year, but not Tian Xinhan, so I'm more familiar with Jackie Chan. I think based on Jackie Chan's strength, he should win this match, but judging from the current situation, it seems that's not the case," Goku says. "I also find it a bit strange. It's clear Jackie Chan is stronger, but he's been constantly suppressed by Tian Xinhan, as if Jackie Chan is holding back and deliberately letting Tian Xinhan win," Yi Shen continued. "That's what I'm curious about too. Tian Xinhan and Jackie Chan had been fighting fiercely for a long time, but neither had won." The audience was on the edge of their seats. The match was gripping their attention. Taking advantage of Jackie Chan's momentary lapse in concentration, Tian Xinhan unleashed his ultimate move, the Solar Flare. The Solar Flare was incredibly powerful, and before Jackie Chan could react, Tian Xinhan struck him with his powerful attack. This was a very noteworthy event. The Rising Dark Horse had defeated the previous martial arts tournament champion, and the media had all recorded it. After being defeated, Jackie Chan was slightly injured and fell to the ground. The referee approached Jackie Chan and began the countdown. As the countdown began, Jackie Chan stood up again. When Jackie Chan stood up, his fans were thrilled, hoping he could turn the tide and win. However, his actions disappointed them. Jackie Chan seemed hesitant. After getting back up, he abandoned his previous plan. Yi Shen realized Jackie Chan didn't want to linger. Yi Shen seemed to understand something. Jackie Chan's desire to lose this match was incomprehensible to him. In Yi Shen's view, a master like Jackie Chan wouldn't easily give up. Besides, Tian Xinhan wasn't strong enough for Jackie Chan to simply abandon the match. After entering the top 8, The match schedule was no longer theirs to choose, it should be arranged by the organizers. However, the next match was particularly interesting. The two fighters in the next match were Yi-Shen and Kulin, who were friends. Yi-Shen and Kulin were very excited after learning about the arrangement. Kulin had never had the chance to spar with Yi-Shen before. Although Kulin knew Yi-Shen was strong and he was no match for him, he really wanted to try. Kulin now dared to push his limits and challenge even stronger opponents. Before Yi-Shen and Kulin went on stage, the two chatted backstage. Kulin spoke first. "Hey, my opponent, you'd better go all out and let me see your true strength." Yi-Shen put his hand on Kulin's shoulder, and the two stood side by side. Yi-Shen leaned close to Kulin's ear and said, "So confident." Kulin proudly raised his head and said, "Yes, I just want to see what a real master is like," Yi-Shen said with a smile. "Stop teasing me. No, you're really amazing. I've always admired you," Yi-Shen said again. "Your progress over the past year has been remarkable, we've all seen it. It's time to test just how much you've improved. When the match officially begins, show me your full strength. Also, don't hold back just because we're friends. Once we're in the ring, there are no friends, we're opponents." Kulin nodded in agreement. The whistle blew, and Yi-Shen and Kulin slowly walked onto the ring. Once on the ring, their eyes changed. They no longer looked at each other as friends, but as opponents they truly wanted to defeat. This was respect for the match. The match began, and Jackie Chan, dressed differently, came to the stands to watch Yi-Shen and Kulin's match. But the Jackie Chan now was different from before. It turned out that the Jackie Chan participating in the match was actually Master Roshi in disguise. Master Roshi did this to teach his disciples a lesson: never underestimate the strength of an unfamiliar opponent, always remain humble and modest, and ensure you have the ability to defeat them. This was the purpose of the previous match. The arrogance of today's youth was too much, a problem Master Roshi had long worried about. To address this, he had to personally step into the ring, impersonating a master like Jackie Chan. Master Roshi deliberately lost the previous match to show his disciples that if a master like Jackie Chan, the previous martial arts champion, could be defeated by a newcomer, they would be no match for him. This was a testament to Master Roshi's good intentions. Sitting in the audience, Master Roshi gently touched his minor injury, which still ached slightly. He didn't know if his personal demonstration would help his disciples understand this principle, but he hoped his efforts would be rewarded. The match between Yi-Shen and Kulin on the stage was still going strong, the scene was incredibly exciting, and the cheers from the audience were constant. However, the vast majority of these cheers were for Yi-Shen, with very few people cheering for Kulin. This was probably because it was Kulin's first time participating in the martial arts tournament, and few people knew him. Yi-Shen had already participated twice, and his previous performance was excellent, so naturally many people knew his name. In this match, Yi-Shen and Kulin were evenly matched, both giving 100% effort as required before the match, making the game particularly exciting. Both Yi-Shen and Kulin used weapons to varying degrees, making them the first pair of fighters to use weapons on the stage. Despite this, their battle was extremely intense, with neither able to gain the upper hand. Master Roshi, watching from the sidelines, showed a satisfied expression. Chapter 575 After Image Fist. Although Yi-Shen and Kulin are still evenly matched, and the situation appears very close, Yi-Shen's experience far surpasses Kulin's. Yi-Shen excels at finding weaknesses in his opponent and exploiting them to create openings. Yi-Shen indeed found a weakness in Kulin and seized the opportunity, unleashing his ultimate move to deliver a devastating blow. Kulin couldn't withstand the attack and collapsed to the ground. The referee intervened, stopping Yi-Shen's further attack and beginning the countdown. Kulin immediately stood up after hearing the countdown begin. He only managed to stand up at the very last moment of the countdown. Not to be outdone, Kulin seized the opportunity when Yi-Shen wasn't paying attention, grabbing Yi-Shen's tail. Yi-Shen's tail had always been his weakness. By exploiting it, Kulin could deliver a fatal blow. However, what Kulin didn't know was that Yi-Shen had already overcome this weakness. This method was no longer effective against Yi-Shen. He wasn't afraid of this move. Yi-Shen counterattacked, quickly delivering a fatal blow and knocking Kulin out of the ring. Yi-Shen won this match, and the next match still belonged to him. Yi-Shen had only forcefully knocked Kulin out of the ring, but hadn't struck any vital points. Kulin accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. After leaving the ring, Yi-Shen checked on Kulin's condition. Yi-Shen helped Kulin up and said, How was it? Now you know my strength, right? Kulin said, clutching his stomach. I know, I can't afford to mess with you anymore. I won't dare to mess with you again. I'm going back to continue my secluded training so I won't lose so humiliatingly next time, Yi Shen continued. Your experience participating in this martial arts tournament will be of great help to you. Go back and carefully analyze your opponent's moves, learn them, and figure out how to counter them. This will greatly benefit you. Yi Shen was right. He had gone through the same process, analyzing others' powerful moves little by little and absorbing them into his own understanding. His next opponent was Tian Xinhan, whom he had always wanted to face. Now, the opportunity to play against Tian Xinhan had finally arrived, and Yi Shen was extremely excited. While resting backstage, Tian Xinhan passed by Yi Shen and uttered a provocative remark, "Be prepared to admit defeat, or you'll lose too badly." Tian Xinhan's words were incredibly arrogant, making Yi Shen feel uncomfortable. However, Yi Shen didn't want to pay him any attention, intending to teach Tian Xinhan a lesson on the ring later. A few minutes later, the match between Yi Shen and Tian Xinhan was about to begin. After stepping onto the ring, Yi Shen devised a strategy. He would first appear weak, making Tian Xinhan believe he wasn't strong enough, thus allowing him to find Tian Xinhan's weaknesses. Yi Shen had participated in several matches before, and this was the first time he had used the strategy of feigning weakness. When the referee blew the whistle, Yi Shen didn't make the first move, but waited for Tian Xinhan to initiate the attack. Sure enough, Tian Xinhan lacked experience. He didn't understand Yi Shen's character. He didn't know that Yi Shen was not only very strong but also had many cunning schemes. Tian Xinhan fell for it, launching a continuous and fierce attack on Yi Shen. This behavior played right into Yi Shen's hands, and Yi Shen was secretly pleased, as this was exactly what he wanted. Tian Xinhan thought Yi Shen was truly weak, so when he launched his attacks, his strength unconsciously increased. Ultimately, Yi Shen was knocked down by Tian Xinhan's powerful attack, collapsing to the ground, blood flowing from his mouth. Seeing Yi Shen's disheveled state, Tian Xinhan felt a surge of confidence. Sun Wukong, watching the match from the audience, witnessed Yi Shen's predicament and was extremely worried for him. In all the matches he had seen Yi Shen play, this was the first time he had witnessed him so badly beaten. Sun Wukong stood up from his seat and shouted to Yi Shen on the stage, "Go Yi Shen! I believe you can do it." Actually, Yi Shen's strategy was risky, as he had already been hit by Tian Xinhan several times with it, and he was slightly injured. Fortunately, during the beatings, he discovered an opening in Tian Xinhan's defenses. Yi Shen lay on the ground, unable to get up. The referee approached him and began the countdown. While the referee was counting down, Yi Shen deliberately closed his eyes and remained motionless on the ground, making the entire audience hold their breath. The referee had counted down almost halfway, and Yi Shen still hadn't stood up. The fans who supported Yi Shen were getting restless in their seats, extremely worried for him. Finally, when the referee announced the countdown was 1, Yi Shen suddenly stood up. This gave the audience great hope. Suddenly, the entire arena erupted in enthusiastic cheers. Everyone was happy for Yi Shen, and some spectators shouted loudly, "Go Yi Shen! Yi Shen is the best! Yi Shen is the most powerful." After hearing these inspiring words, Yi Shen suddenly felt a surge of fighting spirit. His confidence soared, and he was determined to defeat Tian Xinhan in the next match. Tian Xinhan was particularly surprised that Yi Shen could stand up again. He felt his attack had been fierce enough, but Yi Shen still had the strength to stand. Tian Xinhan, still arrogant, said to Yi Shen, "Yi Shen, I advise you to admit defeat as soon as possible, because you might be in even worse shape than you are now. So if you're smart, end this match quickly to avoid wasting everyone's time. Because the final result is destined to be a loss for me and you." Yi Shen was displeased upon hearing this, and he said to Tian Xinhan with a sharp look, "Is that so? You're so confident you can definitely defeat me? But we'll see what happens next. No one can predict the final outcome. I advise you not to be so confident. If you lose, it will be a slap in the face." Yi Shen and Tian Xinhan are now locked in a fierce battle, neither willing to back down, and they're even going to exchange words with each other. Just after they finished speaking, Yi Shen began to prepare his ultimate move, the afterimage fist. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, Subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.